Welcome to AI Otaku Studio. If you enjoy fantasy and audiobook adventures, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Also, check out my second channel, Infinite Novel Audio, for more anime and AI inspired content. Now, let's begin.
Chapter 75. Activate the secret of the word Jai and increase your strength tenfold. Red Dragon Tooth, this is our first time working together, and we're already facing such danger. Let's go, Zyro Tian whispered to Red Dragon Tooth. Red Dragon Tooth was also a divine sword. But as everyone knows, no matter how good a sword is, if the user is trash and doesn't get the sword's approval, they won't be able to unleash its full power. Just like in the Xunyuan sword, Rift of the Sky drama, Sword 15 was mostly soft and weak in Chen Jingchu's hands, but in Sword Obsessive's hands, it was considered a good treasure sword. Red Dragon Tooth's blade also trembled slightly, as if responding to Zyro Tian's sword intent. The appearance of this sword made Da Ming feel it was extraordinary. It was clearly not a spirit, yet Zyro Tian communicated with Red Dragon Tooth as usual for a brief moment. Crucially, Red Dragon Tooth even responded slightly. Where did Zyro Tian get so many treasures? That little thing that could restore spirit power just now was the same. It seems this person in front of him has many secrets. Zyro Tian's sword intent covered Red Dragon Tooth's blade, and his left hand, with two fingers together, lightly traced the blade, launching an attack against the incoming assault. Second spirit ability, Sword Kai Surge. 7 Absolute Sword Kai. Despite Zyro Tian's desperate resistance, the Sword Kai was easily shattered by Ming's Titan Firmament Cannon. Soon, this energy approached Zyro Tian, who could only hold Red Dragon Tooth horizontally in front of him, while the sword wings behind him enveloped Su Ming to block the attack. Brother, no. Zyro Wu's third spirit ring lit up, ready to take the blow for Su Ming. However, Zyro Tian stopped her, gritting his teeth and saying, "Trust me, Zyro Wu." At this moment, Zyro Tian frowned deeply, realizing that to overcome the current difficulty, he could only activate All-Word Secret to instantly increase his strength tenfold. However, in the past 6 years, he had activated it many times, but he had mostly failed. In his opinion, this might be because All-Word Secret was directly given by the character, unlike that Heavenly Emperor who needed to complete the strokes of All-Word Secret, lacking a certain level of comprehension. Now, he could only calm down and enter a state of selflessness. It was both comprehending All-Word Secret and comprehending sword intent. While enduring the Titan Firmament Cannon, sweat continuously dripped from Zyro Tian's forehead, his spirit power rapidly depleting, but he still closed his eyes and began to comprehend. Facing danger, he chose to trust himself and the sword in his hand. The sword moves with emptiness, the mind remains clear, undisturbed by external things, uninfected by random thoughts. The way of the sword, the intent precedes the sword follows the heart and sword are connected. With an unmoving sword heart, Mount Tai collapses before one without changing countenance. With an enduring sword intent, the world changes, but the will remains steadfast. Zyro Tian continuously recited the essential parts of sword Dao cultivation from the Xunyuan Sword Sutra in his mind. Soon, he felt himself entering a state of no self, and some kind of energy seemed to be gradually activating within his body. Big brother, aren't you going to make a move yet? Look at how anxious Zyro Wujai is. If this human gets seriously injured, Zyro Wujai will probably blame me. Ming looked at a sword mark on his chest and then said, "Don't say it, this human really has something. He's clearly just a spirit elder, but he can actually injure me. He's truly not simple." Wait a little longer, this human seems to be undergoing some kind of transformation. No rush. Anyway, he can still hold on for now. I'm quite curious how he can break through your Titan Firmament Cannon. As Da Ming spoke, his gaze turned towards Zyro Tian. Of course, he had also made his own preparations, fearing that Zyro Wu might rush over if she couldn't take it anymore. With Zyro Wu's current strength, this small Titan Firmament Cannon was not something she could withstand. Time passed by second, and 15's sword body returned to Zyro Wu's side. 15, do you think brother can succeed? Zyro Wu said to 15 with some worry. She knew that 15 was a spiritual sword. In All-Word Secret these years, she had never seen such a spiritual tool spirit, changed to tool spirit tilde. 15's sword body trembled slightly, and on its blade, the sword intent that had originally dissipated surged again. In just a short moment, it had already surpassed its initial sword intent strength. Boom! Zyro Tian, as if aided by a deity, suddenly cut Ming's attack in half, completely breaking through. And 15's sword body bent left and right, showing its own joy. It knew that its master had become stronger again. 15 returned to Zyro Tian's hand. At this moment, Zyro Tian held 15 in his right hand and Red Dragon Tooth in his left, with his spirit power, mental force, and all words secret other attributes increased tenfold. The sword wings behind him and the sword heart eye on his face had clearly become stronger. Brother! Zyro Wu didn't understand how Zyro Tian suddenly became so strong. She only cared that Zyro Tian was fine. How is this possible? Even Da Ming hadn't expected Zyro Tian to break through during the battle. How dared he? But then he couldn't help but feel some doubt. This wasn't right. Even if his spirit power broke through, it shouldn't increase his spirit power and sword intent by several times or even tenfold, right? Da Ming could clearly feel that Zyro Tian's spirit power and the sword intent he exuded seemed to be 10 times stronger than before. Zyro Tian smiled slightly, glanced at Zyro Wu, and then looked back at Ming, saying confidently, Ming, this is my full strength for now. Take this. Just now, at the critical moment, Zyro Tian finally activated all words secret, and even his comprehension of the sword Dao became several times stronger. Moreover, with the pressure from the Titan firmament cannon, he also broke through several meridians in his body, and his spirit power also increased to level 40. Drunken Immortal gazing at the moon step. Immortal wind cloud body technique. Zyro Tian split into dozens of clones, rushing towards Ming like Gui Mei. Not good. Ming didn't understand why Zyro Tian's strength had suddenly increased so much. This strength could already threaten him. He didn't dare to be careless anymore. Raw. Gravity domain. Gravity mud. Pong. Ming slammed his fists to the ground, trying to create trouble for Zyro Tian. Zyro Tian flapped the sword wings behind him and flew towards Ming at an extremely fast speed. He even used the technique of shrinking the ground into inches during his flight, arriving in front of Ming like teleportation. Gravity domain could indeed affect his speed, but shrinking the ground into inches essentially involved shrinking and folding space, related to spatial laws, and had nothing to do with speed. To Ming and the two others, this was quite shocking. Gravity domain was actually ineffective against Zyro Tian. Sword Heart Eye Spirit Bone ability, Sword Intent Gaze. Third Spirit ability, Sword Heart Blood Coagulation Slash. Zyro Tian raised 15 and Red Dragon Tooth in his hands, continuously slashing at the chest of the Titan Giant Ape. Bingo! 100% defense penetration effect. The Titan Giant Ape, unprepared for Zyro Tian's mental attack, felt a sharp pain in its head and could only press its fists against its chest. Its entire body was affected by Zyro Tian's attack, constantly retreating. Enough, humans, you win. Da Ming said unhurriedly, simultaneously activating Slow Domain. Chapter 76, So Will Love Disappear? Affected by Da Ming's Slow Domain, Zyro Tian's slashing speed gradually slowed down, and at the same time, the all-word secret he activated was almost at its time limit. The first time he activated all-word secret, it only lasted for a few seconds. Although the time was a bit short, it made Zyro Tian overjoyed. This battle with Ming brought him many gains, and he also gained a deeper understanding of his own strength. With all-word secret activated, he could even use his third spirit ability to cause significant damage to Ming. If it were a spirit master, as long as the opponent didn't have a domain skill, with his tenfold combat power teleportation and various sword techniques, he might even be able to kill an ordinary titled Douluo. This was already terrifying, considering he was only a spirit ancestor, and a spirit ancestor without a fourth spirit ring. It can only be said that it truly lived up to its name as one of the 9 secrets. In that world, even a heavenly emperor would be moved by it. The combat power system of Douluo did not have such a large gap as that world. The difference between level 98 and level 99 spirit power was only 1-fold. Mental force was hard to say, but it couldn't be tenfold. Therefore, as long as his strength continued to improve, or he obtained other secrets from the system, he could increase the probability of activating All-Word Secret. Undoubtedly, with All-Word Secret, when his strength reached title Douluo, he might even be able to slay gods. Spirit power enhanced tenfold. Mental force enhanced tenfold. All-Word Secret attributes enhanced tenfold. This could give Zyro Tian supreme combat power in a short period. The only drawback was that the duration he could maintain it was too short now. Moreover, this time, being able to activate All-Word Secret also involved an element of gamble, which was one of the reasons he challenged Ming. Originally, he thought he could activate it during the battle with Zhao Wuji, but he didn't expect the pressure Zhao Wuji brought him to be completely insufficient. However, after using All-Word Secret, he was completely exhausted. The sword wings on his back also disappeared, and he fell straight backward. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 15's sword body trembled, detaching from Zyro Tian's right hand, about to fly behind Zyro Tian to support him. However, the next moment, Zyro Wu teleported and appeared in midair, catching Zyro Tian. Brother, are you all right? Zyro Wu caught Zyro Tian, her face full of worry. Zyro Wu Jai, this human is just too exhausted from using too much spirit power. Shouldn't you be concerned about me? I'm covered in sword wounds from his spirit ability. Ming said with a bit of grievance. HMPH Ming, you're thick-skinned and strong, you'll recover in a while. Besides, you're a 100,000-year spirit beast, and you were beaten like this by my brother, and you're still complaining. Zyro Wu's aura suddenly changed, transforming back into Zyro Wu Jai, the big sister. She would only be a bit obedient when she was with Zyro Tian. Ming. Woo woo woo, no love, no love. Zyro Wu Jai only went to the human world for 6 years. How did she become like this tilde tilde? Ming expressed that his heart had suffered 10,000 points of critical damage. Cough cough Zyro Wu, I'm fine, I'm just a bit exhausted, I'll be fine after a short rest. Zyro Tian patted Zyro Wu's small hand, telling her not to worry. Zyro Wu Jai, why did your aura suddenly appear in the Stardew Great Forest? Logically speaking, we too should have sensed your spirit beast aura the moment you stepped into the forest. This was also the reason Da Ming came along. He was very curious about this. Zyro Wu smiled slightly and reactivated the ring's concealment function, completely hiding her spirit beast aura. What's going on? Zyro Wu Jai, your spirit beast aura has completely disappeared again. Da Ming and Ming exclaimed. Zyro Wu saw Zyro Tian nod to her, and she extended her left hand. Look, this is the ring brother gave me. This ring can not only store living things, but also has a heaven-defying function. It can hide my spirit beast aura. As long as I activate it, even a titled Douluo won't be able to discover that I'm a 100,000-year spirit beast. Oh, so Zyro Wu Jai deliberately leaked her aura just now to make us two appear. Da Ming said. That's right, haven't I not seen you two for 6 years? Taking advantage of this return to the Stardew Great Forest, I wanted to meet you and also let you meet the brother I recognized in the human world, so you can rest assured. This thing on me was given to me by my brother. Thank you, Zyro Tian. Da Ming said to Zyro Tian. This time, his attitude was clearly much better. He directly called Zyro Tian's name. But this did not mean he had relaxed his guard against Zyro Tian. Zyro Tian had too many secrets. Allowing Zyro Wu to hide her spirit beast aura might be to make Zyro Wu relax her guard, and then try to absorb Zyro Wu's spirit ring and spirit bone when she was about to advance to title Douluo. One must be wary. Regarding Zyro Wu, Da Ming had to be extremely cautious. Zyro Tian, it seems Zyro Wu Jai trusts you a lot, even telling you that she is a 100,000-year spirit beast in human form. You are very mysterious. Da Ming's enormous ox eyes stared fixedly at Zyro Tian's face, wanting to see what he would say and if he was lying. No, I didn't tell my brother about my spirit beast identity at first. He discovered it. Zyro Wu recounted what happened that day, as well as Tang Hao discovering her spirit beast identity. On this matter, Da Ming had misunderstood Zyro Tian. If it weren't for Zyro Tian's reminder at that time, Zyro Wu would have been truly in danger later on. Of course, the current danger had not been completely lifted yet. Hearing that Zyro Wu was actually being targeted by a titled Douluo, Da Ming and Ming immediately became nervous. Zyro Wu Jai, why don't you just stay here this time and not go out? Life is the most important. Da Ming and Ming both didn't want Zyro Wu to be in danger. Zyro Tian, thank you for this matter. The two beasts sincerely expressed their gratitude to Zyro Tian. They could see that Zyro Tian was also sincere towards Zyro Wu Jai. If he truly coveted Zyro Wu Jai's spirit ring and spirit bone, there would have been no need to give Zyro Wu Jai that ring. Because Zyro Wu Jai's identity had already been revealed. You two don't have to worry. I'm temporarily out of danger now, and I don't want to be separated from brother. Don't worry, you saw my brother's strength just now. He can protect me well. A look of determination appeared on Zyro Wu's face. No, we admit that Zyro Tian's strength is indeed very surprising, but he is still too weak at the moment and has no way to fully protect you. At least he needs to reach Spirit Saint, plus the wonderful secret technique he used just now, to have the capital to contend with a titled Douluo. Chapter 77, Soul Contract with Ming and Ming. However, after Da Ming and Ming finished speaking, they fixed their gaze on Zyro Tian, wanting to know if he truly had a way to resolve this matter. Allowing Zyro Wu Jai to stay here could indeed guarantee her safety, but it wasn't a long-term solution. There would always be a time when her lifespan ended. Now that Zyro Wu had taken human form, her current lifespan was only about 100 years. They also didn't want to see Zyro Wu grow old and die in front of them. Zyro Tian pondered for a moment, and suddenly an idea came to him. The soul-spirit contract method the system had given him. Zyro Wu hadn't yet reached the 60-level maturity, so theoretically, she was still a spirit beast, not a human. Could he use this method to form a contract with her? Originally, he had planned to use this method to contract with Yin later, but now, it seemed he could bring it up and let Da Ming and Ming consider it as well. If it could truly succeed, when Zyro Wu encountered danger, she could hide in his spiritual space. And if he encountered enemies he couldn't defeat, he could directly use the jade pendant given by the system to teleport away or escape with the shrinking ground into inches ability. Subsequently, Zyro Tian told Da Ming and Ming about the concept of the soul-spirit contract. A moment later, Da Ming asked, "Is this method you speak of truly feasible? Where did you get this method?" Zyro Tian shook his head slightly and said, "Just assume I thought of it myself. The soul-spirit contract method is absolutely feasible, but Zyro Wu has already transformed into human form, which makes me a bit uncertain. Moreover, forming a soul-spirit contract with a spirit beast is not that simple. Ordinary spirit beasts need to be at least 10,000 years old to possess a certain level of intelligence, so I haven't contracted any spirit souls yet." Zyro Tian's words meant that it was up to Da Ming and Ming to decide how to proceed. "Brother, I'm willing to try." However, Zyro Tian shook his head and said, "No, Zyro Wu, I just said that after signing a soul-spirit contract, the spirit beast's own body will disappear, unless its cultivation reaches 100,000 years. Only then can it rematerialize its body. And in your current state, I'm not sure if you will still retain your body at that time." Zyro Wu smiled. "Brother, you don't understand me, do you? You should know that even if I've taken human form, I am still essentially a 100,000-year spirit beast, because the spirit ring and spirit bone within me are also 100,000 years old. I don't think this conflicts with what you said about reaching 100,000 years. Besides, even if it truly fails in the end, I won't disappear. I'll just stay in your spiritual sea and cultivate back to 100,000 years of cultivation. Wouldn't that be fine, when you go out? You can just give Rongrong and the others any excuse." Zyro Wu was also very curious about this soul-spirit contract. If it could truly succeed, it might even ease the relationship between spirit masters and spirit beasts in the future. After all, if a spirit master died after a soul-spirit contract, the spirit beast wouldn't die. Moreover, after the contract, Zyro Tian had said that they could achieve a certain degree of telepathy. Of course, this would require someone who could speak for both the spirit master's world and the spirit beast world to come forward. This matter wasn't urgent for now, but it ultimately gave her some hope. Zyro Wu Jai. Da Ming and Ming both felt that Zyro Wu Jai was being a bit impulsive, so they said, "Why don't we two form the soul-spirit contract with Zyro Tian instead of you?" Didn't Zyro Tian say that after becoming his spirit soul, the abilities of the spirit master and the spirit beast could be used interchangeably, and after forming the contract, we too could also protect you better by your side. Saying that, Da Ming and Ming looked at Zyro Tian and said, Kid, what do you think? With the help of us 100,000-year spirit beasts, your future growth will definitely be smoother. And didn't you just break through to level 40? Either I or Ming can add a suitable 4th spirit ring for you. Zyro Tian was suddenly a bit confused and tentatively asked, Don't you two need to stay in the Stardew Great Forest to guard it? Da Ming shook his head and said, The Stardew Great Forest is far from as simple as you think. In this forest, we too are not the absolute overlords, so there's no need for us to guard it. We too hope more that Zyro Wujai can live safely. Ming said in a rumbling voice, Yes, when Zyro Wujai's mother went deeper into the forest to find Zyro Wujai's father, she met with misfortune. When we arrived, we only found Zyro Wujai hiding in the bushes. We too should have accompanied Auntie to find Uncle back then, Sai. Da Ming said, and back then, Zyro Wujai resolutely chose to enter the human world, wanting to avenge herself against that person from Spirit Hall. We couldn't stop her. Although we were worried, for the sake of the bigger picture, we wouldn't choose to take human form. When Zyro Wujai encountered danger and ran to the Stardew Great Forest, we too had the strength to protect her. This was a layer of protection, but now it's not needed. If the soul spirit contract you mentioned is real, we too would be very happy to see it. At this moment, Zyro Wu also told Da Ming and Ming about that past event, and Zyro Tian's speculation about it. The two spirit beasts immediately fell into deep thought again. That being said, it actually made some sense. With Bibai Dong's strength at that time, it was impossible for her not to have discovered Zyro Wu hiding in the bushes. Regarding this matter, there's no rush for now. When your strength reaches a certain level in the future, perhaps you can go and ask Bibai Dong for a clear explanation. Auntie's soul should still be attached to the spirit ring and spirit bone. Although it's difficult to revive her, it's not without hope. Ever since Aru's death, Da Ming and Ming had not stopped researching how to revive her, and they had made some progress, but it required gathering many items. Zyro Tian was silent for a moment. If Da Ming and Ming wanted to sign a soul spirit contract with him, he would be more than willing. Whether it was the power type Ming or the agility type Da Ming, both were very suitable to add a spirit ring to his 15. Brother, since Da Ming and Ming are willing, then. Zyro Wu nodded at Zyro Tian. This way would indeed be much safer. Initially, Da Ming and Ming could stay in Zyro Tian's spiritual space, and then a suitable identity could be arranged for them later. Zyro Tian nodded heavily, then looked at Da Ming and Ming, closed his eyes, recalled the key points of forming a soul spirit contract, and simultaneously recited the contract incantation. Spirit, soul and I, our hearts connected, treating each other as equals, mutually protecting and assisting. The power of the spirit enters my spirit ring, my will as firm as the spirit. Heaven and earth bear witness, this contract lasts forever, embarking on the journey together, never betraying. The next moment, two contracts formed by soul power appeared before everyone. Zyro Tian pointed his right hand's 2 fingers together at his forehead, and 2 spiritual imprints appeared within the contracts. Chapter 78, Uncontrollable Tenderness. Da Ming and Ming, the 2 spirit beasts, followed suit, each imprinting their mental force onto their respective contracts. At this point, the contract was complete. Da Ming and Ming's originally massive bodies abruptly shrunk, floating to rest on Zyro Wu's left and right shoulders respectively. Zyro Tian. Wow, Da Ming and Ming, you two look so adorable like this. Zyro Wu said with some excitement, even reaching out to stroke their heads. Zyro Tian didn't mind this. Looking at Da Ming and Ming in their current form, they had a doll-like feel. Aren't you two going to transform into human forms? Regarding Zyro Tian's question, Da Ming replied, Not for now. Transforming into human form would actually hinder our movements. Anyway, unless it's a critical moment, we two generally won't appear. This form is just right. Yeah, I never dreamed I could become this small. It's a novel feeling, quite good. The two of them clearly had a much better attitude towards Zyro Tian now, because through their partial mental connection, they could both feel that Zyro Tian's feelings for Zyro Wu were very genuine. And because the two of them had become Zyro Tian's spirit souls, their original bodies disappeared, and 2 100,000-year spirit bones appeared before them. Titan Giant Ape left arm spirit bone. Sky Azure Bull Python right arm spirit bone. The 2 spirit bones slowly floated in front of Zyro Tian. Zyro Tian was silent for a moment, resisting the immense temptation of the 100,000-year spirit bones. With a wave of his right hand, the 2 spirit bones floated in front of Zyro Wu. Zyro Wu, these are Da Ming and Ming's spirit bones. You should take them. Da Ming and Ming, 2 100,000-year spirit beasts, becoming his spirit souls was already very satisfying for him. He couldn't covet these 2 spirit bones, otherwise his actions would be too unseemly. These 2 spirit bones rightfully belonged to Zyro Wu. Da Ming and Ming looked at Zyro Tian with some surprise, then a hint of appreciation in their eyes. They both knew how tempting 100,000-year spirit bones were to spirit masters, but Zyro Tian was able to control this desire so well. Was this the way of a sword cultivator? Zyro Wu smiled, took the 2 spirit bones but didn't put them away. Instead, she walked to Zyro Tian, placed them in his hand and said softly, "Brother, you know that before my maturity period, meaning before I completely become human, I cannot absorb spirit bones." "Then you can wait until you..." Zyro Wu's finger rested on Zyro Tian's lips, preventing him from speaking, and she continued, "Brother, I know what you want to say, but you should know that spirit rings and spirit bones work better together to unleash greater power. Besides, only when your strength becomes stronger can you protect me better tilde. Zyro Tian's heart trembled suddenly. Looking into Zyro Wu's tender, watery eyes, he couldn't help but kiss her lips. Da Ming and Ming. Zyro Wu hadn't expected Zyro Tian to suddenly kiss her. The 2 spirit bones in her hands immediately fell to the ground, and her hands subconsciously made a symbolic resistance, her face gradually flushing crimson. Da Ming and Ming were still here, how embarrassing. But no matter how Zyro Wu patted Zyro Tian's chest, Zyro Tian remained unmoved, even wrapping his arms around her waist and holding her tightly. Gradually, Zyro Wu also began to cooperate with Zyro Tian's rhythm, and the 2 became immersed in a passionate embrace. Da Ming and Ming floated in midair, their backs to Zyro Wu and Zyro Tian, and exchanged glances. "Big brother, isn't Zyro Tian Zyro Wu's human brother?" They're not blood relatives, and you should be able to see Zyro Wu Jai's feelings for Zyro Tian, right? And we also have a slight mental connection with Zyro Tian, so this scene isn't too surprising. A few minutes later, Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu released each other. Suddenly, Zyro Wu remembered that Da Ming and Ming were still there, and her already rosy cheeks became even more vibrant and alluring. "Brother, look at you, there are still people here." Zyro Wu said shyly. "We didn't see anything," the 2 said in unison. At this, Zyro Wu shyly buried her head directly into Zyro Tian's embrace. "Oh, by the way, Zyro Tian, have you decided which of us 2 will provide your 4th spirit ring?" Da Ming very clearly chose to change the subject. Zyro Tian picked up the 2 spirit bones from the ground, and then said without hesitation, "My 4th spirit ability. I want a spirit ability related to increasing attack speed." Da Ming said faintly, "Then I will provide your 4th spirit ring. I've observed that your first 3 spirit rings are all 1,000-year ones, so this 4th spirit ring has a high probability of becoming a 10,000-year spirit ring. Regarding 10,000-year spirit rings, I need to explain something to you. Besides the difference in physical pressure between 1,000-year and 10,000-year spirit rings, a 10,000-year spirit ring also adds a mental attack. The spirit ring produced by a deceased 10,000-year spirit beast will carry its resentment attack from when it was alive. Generally speaking, only a spirit king can withstand it, but because you cultivate sword intent, your mental force doesn't seem weak either. Of course, because this 4th 10,000-year spirit ring is granted to you by us, there won't be any resentment attacks. You can rest assured about that." However, Zyro Tian merely nodded indifferently, as if he had already known this concept, which surprised him a little, but thinking of Zyro Tian's mysteriousness, he felt it was normal. Even with the soul spirit contract with Zyro Tian, and a degree of mental connection, it didn't mean that he knew everything Zyro Tian was thinking, nor could Zyro Tian know everything he was thinking, otherwise it would be a bit terrifying, with no privacy at all. Immediately, Da Ming also merged into Zyro Tian's mental space. Zyro Tian sat cross-legged on the ground, and a 1,000-year spirit ring slowly appeared on Zyro Tian's body surface. However, this was not the end. As time passed, the purple became deeper and began to transform into a black spirit ring. Ultimately, Zyro Tian's fourth spirit ring's age settled at just over 10,000 years. And due to the special nature of spirit souls, the spirit rings they grant do not provide as much of a boost to the spirit master's rank as normal spirit ring acquisition. Therefore, after Zyro Tian absorbed his fourth spirit ring, his rank only reached 41. Don't rush to complain. Zyro Tian was not too surprised by this result. When the system provided this soul spirit contract, which was different from the original work, it had already included a note. Moreover, Zyro Tian also remembered that when Hua Yuhao's strength had already reached Spirit Saint 10,000 years later, after the octagonal mysterious ice grass provided a spirit ring for his second spirit, he only gained powerful spirit abilities, but there was no significant increase in spirit power. However, in Zyro Tian's view, this was actually understandable. When a spirit beast becomes a spirit soul, strictly speaking, it is not considered dead. And for a spirit soul to use its own energy to grant a spirit ring to a spirit master, allowing them to possess spirit abilities, is already difficult, let alone using that energy to increase their rank. P.S. Please recommend tickets, monthly tickets, collections, and continuous reading .. I checked the original Douluo II. After Hua Yuhao's Ice Emperor spirit absorbed the octagonal mysterious ice grass's spirit ring, there was indeed no mention of rank increase. So my writing here should be reasonable, right? After all, with the soul spirit contract, the spirit beast itself is not considered dead, so it makes sense that the granted spirit ring isn't like a normal one. There will be a more reasonable explanation in the next chapter. Chapter 79, The Disadvantages and Solutions of Contracted Souls. That's strange. Why did your level not increase much after I gave you a 10,000-year spirit ring? This is too odd, isn't it? Deming was a bit confused. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Zyro Tian then voiced his guess. This should be a limitation brought by the soul spirit contract. After all, you became spirit souls. You didn't die. It's understandable that a spirit master obtaining a spirit ring wouldn't see a drastic level increase, as the soul spirit contract surely has disadvantages if it has advantages. Zyro Tian paused, then continued. However, for spirit beasts, this might actually be a good thing, as it can better alleviate the conflict between spirit masters and spirit beasts. Brother, how so? Zyro Wu was no longer shy at this point, pulling on Zyro Tian's arm with a curious look. Zyro Tian pondered for a moment and said, after a spirit beast becomes a spirit master's spirit soul, it can improve as the spirit master's cultivation increases, which means it can also accelerate the spirit beast's original cultivation speed. After all, you both know that spirit masters grow much faster than you spirit beasts. Then what does that have to do with alleviating conflict? Ming foolishly rubbed his head, somewhat puzzled. Zyro Tian said, of course it's related. As you just saw, the spirit ring granted by a spirit soul only allows the spirit master to possess spirit abilities and continue cultivating, without drastically increasing the spirit master's level due to the high age limit. Under normal circumstances, if I absorbed a 10,000-year spirit ring for my fourth spirit ring, it would at least give me a 3-level increase, but now, it only raised me to level 41. Deming's eyes lit up slightly, beginning to understand the meaning behind Zyro Tian's words. I generally understand what you mean. Now that it's known that contracting a high age limit spirit soul initially doesn't significantly boost one's level, those spirit masters won't excessively pursue contracts with high age limit spirit beasts, especially for spirit Douluo or even titled Douluo. Because a spirit soul will improve as the spirit master's strength increases, and the age limit of the granted spirit ring will do the same, there's no need to overly concern oneself with contracting high age limit spirit beasts. However, Daming immediately realized something was off, titled Douluo. No, the soul spirit contract still had a very serious flaw. Zyro Tian, I suddenly realized, the soul spirit contract seems to have another very serious flaw. Zyro Tian said calmly, are you worried that because of the soul spirit contract, one spirit soul can grant a spirit master multiple spirit rings, so some spirit masters might abuse this to kill spirit beasts for their spirit bones? So you knew. Deming looked at Zyro Tian with some surprise. Zyro Tian said calmly, of course I've thought about this problem, so if we have the opportunity to promote the soul spirit contract in the future, we will definitely need to establish strict regulations, and even a dedicated patrol team. If anyone is found to be wantonly killing spirit beasts, they will be handed over to the representatives of your spirit beast world for handling. Zyro Tian had naturally thought about this matter before. The promotion of the soul spirit contract and the subsequent formulation of rules would best be handled by Spirit Hall. After all, Spirit Hall is the most friendly towards commoners. If this method were given to the two great empires, it would be very likely that they would exploit it. However, Zyro Tian also had a major concern. Thinking about Bibaidong accepting the Rakshasa god's trial until now, it should have been over 10 years, and her mindset itself was influenced by the Rakshasa divine sense, making her extremely prejudiced. So in Zyro Tian's view now, it's not ideal for Spirit Hall to promote the soul spirit contract method. That leaves only one last option, creating his own faction. However, this made Zyro Tian feel a great headache again. Creating his own faction was clearly an extremely troublesome matter. To establish his own faction, he would have to win over a portion of people, and this would very likely lead to a confrontation with Spirit Hall later on. Even if Bibaidong might have had a good relationship with Aru before, and even let Zyro Wu go, after so many years of being influenced by the Rakshasa divine sense, it's hard to say whether she would be an enemy or a friend. Otherwise, after the original Soul Master competition ended, when Bibaidong discovered Zyro Wu's spirit beast identity, she wouldn't have tried to capture her alive. Of course, there's also a possibility that Bibaidong was trying to protect Zyro Wu because her identity was exposed, and she had no choice, but Zyro Tian believes this possibility is extremely low. Because 5 years later, Bibaidong even sent Chrysanthemum Ghost Duo to lead a team to the Stardew Great Forest to try and capture Zyro Wu. Thinking about it carefully, joining Spirit Hall later on doesn't seem like a good option either. Unless he can obtain something from the system that can help Bibaidong purify the Rakshasa divine sense and restore her to normal. Otherwise, it would be better to create his own faction. And as he thought about possessing various skills of the Drunken Sword Immortal, and then remembered that the Drunken Sword Immortal belonged to Shu Mountain, could he emulate Tang San and establish a Shushan sword sect in the Douluo world? Zyro Tian was startled by the thought in his mind and chuckled self-deprecatingly. To think of founding a sect with his current strength, his ambition was a bit too grand. It's better to focus on the present first. Immediately Zyro Tian said to Da Ming and Ming, regarding this soul spirit contract matter, there are naturally advantages and disadvantages. You don't need to worry too much now. Solving this issue will be a very long process, and it cannot be rushed at all right now. Da Ming and Ming exchanged glances and nodded. Indeed, they were a bit anxious now. So they looked at the spirit bone in Zyro Tian's hand and said, Zyro Tian, why don't you absorb these 2 spirit bones now? They should be able to directly help you cross the threshold of level 50. On the other side, due to the sudden appearance of Da Ming and Ming, 200,000-year spirit beasts in the outer forest, many weaker spirit beasts all hid in fear. Flender and the others therefore flew out of the Stardew Great Forest very smoothly. As soon as they left the Stardew Great Forest, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. And because they flew quite hastily on the way, the originally unconscious Ning Rongrong also frowned and gradually woke up. She shook her head, looked around, and was a bit confused. Had they escaped? She immediately assessed her own condition and found that her spirit power had recovered quite a bit, but due to the instantaneous depletion of spirit power in her body, that feeling still lingered slightly, making her feel very uncomfortable. Rongrongs, you're awake. Zhu Zhuqing was the first to notice the awakened Ning Rongrong and said with surprise. And this exclamation also drew everyone's attention. Ning Rongrong looked around but didn't see Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu. A bad premonition immediately arose in her heart, and she tentatively asked, where are Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu? Ning Rongrong didn't want to believe that Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu were still left behind, and she looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a nervous expression. Chapter 80. Ning Rongrong, why didn't the person who was protecting her show up? Facing Ning Rongrong's question, Zhu Zhuqing's face stiffened slightly as she said with great difficulty, Zyro Tian volunteered to be a decoy so that we could escape, and Zyro Wu insisted on staying there, wanting to use teleportation to bring Zyro Tian out, but Zhu Zhuqing couldn't continue speaking at the end. Unless the two 100,000-year spirit beasts didn't use their domain abilities, with Zyro Wu's current teleportation strength, it would be impossible to bring Zyro Tian out. Moreover, they had never seen Zyro Wu use teleportation to carry someone, which indicated that Zyro Wu wanting to use teleportation to take Zyro Tian away was just an excuse. Or she was willing to risk death to try and teleport with someone. Ning Rongrong's impression of Shrek Academy immediately worsened, although she knew that in such a situation, there was no other way but to do this, otherwise, they might all die there. However, Flender and these spirit saint powerhouses actually let a mere 12-year-old boy act as a decoy. Even their 7-treasure glazed tile school wouldn't do such a thing. Also, they had just encountered such a huge crisis, so why didn't the person secretly protecting her appear? Zyro Tian, blind man, you finally found the crucial point. When Ning Rongrong and her group encountered the Titan giant ape in the original novel, these people also showed no trace of appearing. Since they could be sent by Ning Fengzhai to protect Ning Rongrong's safety, they must have been highly valued and trusted by the 7-treasure glazed tile school. And they should have been clear in their hearts that their existence, to put it bluntly, was to protect Ning Rongrong's safety, even if it meant dying for Ning Rongrong. It was only because Ning Rongrong was fine in the original novel that these 7-treasure glazed tile school secret guards didn't have to be buried with her. Ning Rongrong decided to remember this matter for now. When Grandpa's sword arrived, she would definitely make these people pay the price. At this moment, Ning Rongrong even resented these secret guards. Although she knew very well in her heart that even if these people came out, it would be useless, and they would all die in the end. Beside them, Flender sighed and briefly recounted what had happened. Rongrong, you also know that Zyro Tian's 3rd spirit ability is special, and he possesses endless sword intent. At that time, we didn't have much spirit power left, and Zhao Wuji couldn't even use his martial soul true body again. We truly did our best. After Zhao Wuji used his martial soul true body, he would be weak for several days. Even after taking the candy beans made by Xiaozin, his face was still very pale. Tang San, how are you doing now? Flender and the others looked at Tang San with some concern, because Tang San's external spirit bone had been pulled out. But after he took Xiaozin's healing candy beans, he became fine, and even the wound on his back had almost healed. In his understanding, once a spirit bone was pulled out, it meant that the spirit master's life had come to an end. Broken arms and legs were an exception. His back couldn't possibly be broken, right? Tang San had just been carefully examining his body. He shook his head, but his expression was not good. Dean, I'm fine, it's just, because I lost the 8 spider lance's soul bone, my spirit power dropped by 1 level, leaving me with only level 31. Yu Zyrogang patted Tang San's back comfortingly. Little San, being able to save your life this time is already a blessing in disguise. Teacher, then why am I still alive, and well after my spirit bone was pulled out? Tang San asked the doubt in his heart, and this was also the doubt of everyone present. Yu Zyrogang had already thought about this question just now, so he said, this is very likely because you and the 8 spider lances were not fully fused. Not fully fused, Grandmaster, what does that mean? Oscar asked. That's because Little San's 3rd spirit ring was absorbed beyond his level, which put a greater burden on his body, and the spirit bone is the same principle. Because the 8 spider lances came from a man-faced demon spider, and you all know how ferocious man-faced demon spiders are. Yu Zyrogang carefully explained to everyone why this situation occurred. Dragon Duke Snake Lady exchanged glances, feeling that something was strange, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. Are external spirit bones different from ordinary spirit bones? In their impression, as long as the spirit master's strength wasn't too poor, there should basically be no level requirements for absorption, right? Even a 100,000-year spirit bone could be easily absorbed by a spirit master of 40 or 50 levels. This was one of the differences between spirit bones and spirit rings. I'm going to wait here for them to come back. At this moment, Ning Rongrong firmly stated her decision. As soon as she said this, the expressions of Flender, Dragon Duke Snake Lady, and others all stiffened. The Stardew Great Forest was so dangerous now, why not leave quickly and dare to stay here? Even if they had already left the Stardew Great Forest, who knows if those 2 100,000-year spirit beasts would pursue them. Originally, 100,000-year spirit beasts stayed in the core area, but now they had appeared in the outer reaches of Stardew for some unknown reason, so it wasn't impossible for them to chase them out. Enning Rongrong's mood became even more disheartened when she saw Flender and the others object. "I'll stay too," Zhu Zhuqing said coldly. Just now, she felt extremely guilty for leaving Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu in the forest, but she knew that her staying would be useless and would only waste Zyro Tian's painstaking efforts. And now, if she didn't even dare to stay, she would truly be unworthy of Zyro Tian's life-saving grace. "No, I don't agree. Zhuqing, you must leave with me immediately." Dai Mubai's tone was full of command. But Zhu Zhuqing glanced at him, not bothering to pay him any mind. She regretted deeply why, when Shrek and Kanghui Academy had a conflict, she subconsciously sided with Shrek, no, it should be said, sided with Dai Mubai. Hadn't she come here to become stronger and change her destiny? But now she suddenly realized, had she really come here to change her destiny? She had clearly escaped from the Zhu family and the Stardew Empire. She could have chosen to find a remote place and slowly cultivate to become stronger, but she chose to come to Shrek to find Dai Mubai. Deep down, she still held a glimmer of hope for Dai Mubai, and even wanted to win the Imperial family's assessment with Dai Mubai. But she now felt that she was wrong, terribly wrong. Could she really defeat Dai Weisi and Zhu Jian by staying with someone like him? She now felt that hope was so slim. Is it because you and Zyro Tian had a conflict in the tavern a few days ago, and you hold a grudge against him, so you're unwilling to wait for him? Zhu Zhuqing questioned coldly. Chapter 81 Treatment for Yu Zyrogang and Ma Hongjun. Just as everyone was about to argue, Flender sighed and said, all right, it's getting late. How about this, we'll wait here for one night. If Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu still don't appear by then. Flender didn't finish his sentence, but everyone understood what he meant. Tang San's eyes were also red. One night, just one night. If Zyro Wu still didn't appear by then, he would rush in to find Zyro Wu's body no matter what. Why not go in now? Because he still held a glimmer of hope, and at the same time, he needed to restore his state to its best during this period. Tang San subconsciously looked at his left hand, and this action was immediately noticed by Yu Zyrogang. Yu Zyrogang's brows furrowed slightly. Could Tang San be that impulsive? Yu Zyrogang decided to focus all his attention on Tang San to prevent him from doing anything impulsive. Then he thought about how his private part was accidentally shattered, how he would no longer have the happiness of being a man, and how he might not be able to be with Liu Erlong and Bibai Dong in the future. As for this matter, Flender hadn't forgotten it. One was his friend, and the other was his direct disciple. Now, it was necessary to properly check to see if there was any possibility of recovery. Just as he was about to say something, the Dragon Duke, who was beside him, spoke up. Since we are out of danger now, the three of us will leave first. We still need to go to other soul-hunting forests to help Meng Yuren acquire her third spirit ring. Flender knew he couldn't stop the Dragon Duke Snake Lady and the others from leaving, so he could only force a smile. Seniors, have a safe journey. This time, the three of us owe that little guy a favor. If he's still alive in the end, he can come to the Beast Academy to find me, and I can grant him a request within my ability. With that, the Dragon Duke took Meng Yuren's small hand and fled with the snake granny as if escaping. Flender, wanting to help Meng Yuren acquire her third spirit ring might be true, but wanting to leave here as soon as possible was also true, wasn't it? As night fell, everyone set up tents nearby, and Yu Zyrogang and Ma Hongjun were called inside by Flender. It was necessary for Xiao Xin to examine their injuries. Although Xiao Xin wasn't a healing spirit master, he did possess some healing ability, and at the very least, he had good judgment and should know if it could still recover. How is it? Yu Zyrogang and Ma Hongjun were both very nervous, hoping the results weren't too bad. Sigh. Xiao Xin sighed and shook his head, saying, it's hopeless. If it were a clean break, there might still be hope for mending, but as you yourselves saw, your private parts were already blown open, yet my candy beans temporarily stopped the bleeding. I'm afraid I need to operate on the two of you as soon as possible. Xiao Xin's words exploded in their ears. Flender hurriedly asked, Xiao Xin, what do you mean? Xiao Xin said lightly, their urethras are completely blocked. Now, that part is just a useless piece of rotten flesh. Later, you will need to use a sharp feather to neatly cut open Grandmaster and Ma Hongjun's private parts, and then use a clean feather or other thin rod to help them create an opening, which is essentially the common eunuch procedure in the palace. No, I don't want to. Ma Hongjun looked resistant. If it was really cut off, there would be no hope of recovery afterwards. Suit yourself, however, if you can't urinate later, that urine will likely flow backward, if urine accumulates in large quantities in the private parts. There are only two outcomes. First, your private part will burst, and before it bursts, you will definitely be in pain. Second, the urine will flow backward to other parts of your body and cannot be discharged. In that case, you can only wait to die. Xiao Xin very seriously explained the pros and cons to Ma Hongjun. To be honest, he wasn't sure what would happen if urine couldn't be discharged and flowed backward. But something that was supposed to be expelled couldn't be expelled. Ma Hongjun looked at Flender with a bitter face. Teacher, is there really no other way? Flender shook his head and said, time is urgent now. If you refuse now and your body develops problems because of it later, I'm afraid no one can save you. In this world, there was no advanced medical treatment that could perform open-body surgery. All treatments relied on healing spirit masters, spirit abilities, and various medicines they had developed. Yu Xiaogang gritted his teeth. Come on. Flender felt a little hesitant, thinking about what he was about to do. Flender, when you act later, you must be quick, otherwise it will be torture for the two of them. After speaking, Xiao Xin took out 4 candy beans from his body and gave 2 to each of them. Teacher Xiao Xin, why do we need 2? Ma Hongjun was a little confused. You'll know later. Xiao Xin smiled mysteriously, making Yu Xiaogang and him nervous. Who wants to go first? Ma Hongjun scratched his head with a forced smile and said, let Grandmaster go first then. I'm not in a hurry, not in a hurry. Yu Xiaogang. Although Yu Xiaogang was very nervous, he also knew that now was not the time to hesitate because he already felt the urge to urinate. From the time he escaped until now, he hadn't relieved himself once. Flender first went outside to explain the situation to the others, telling them not to come in if they heard any sounds unless there was a special circumstance. Yu Xiaogang also took off all his clothes and lay naked on the ground. Flender looked at Yu Xiaogang's disfigured private part, his mouth twitching. He suppressed his nausea, extended his right hand, and a very sharp feather appeared between his index and middle fingers. Are you ready, Xiaogang? Ready, Before Yu Xiaogang could finish speaking, Flender seized the opportunity and cut it off, then hurriedly said, quick Xiaogang, take the candy beans. Yu Xiaogang had already placed his hands near his face. In the few seconds that pain struck, he endured the pain and ate the candy beans. On the other side, Xiao Xin inserted the prepared thin rod into it. Under the effect of Xiao Xin's candy beans, the wound was healing at an extremely fast rate. Keep it like this for an hour. Xiao Xin wiped the sweat from his forehead and looked at Ma Hongjun. Ma Hongjun's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Just now, Flender had actually taken advantage of Grandmaster's unpreparedness, and directly. It made him shudder. Chapter 82 Conflict, Secret Guards Appear. Now Yu Xiaogang's treatment was concluded, and Flender immediately raised an eyebrow at Ma Hongjun, the meaning self-evident. Ma Hongjun instantly got goosebumps all over, but for the sake of his life, he could only quickly strip off all his clothes. He lay flat a meter away from Yu Xiaogang. Teacher, you. Ma Hongjun hadn't finished speaking when Flender swiftly brought the feather down. Teacher, you didn't even ask if I was ready. Ma Hongjun was on the verge of tears. He could only bear the pain and swallow the candy bean, which made him feel a little better. He no longer wanted to experience the pain of a broken groin a second time. Next was a long hour of waiting. They needed to wait for the wound there to completely heal, meaning for the flesh to fully grow back and fixate, before the next step of the operation could proceed. The continuous shouts from Yu Xiaogang and Ma Hongjun inside the tent made Tang San and the others' scalps tingle. Just thinking about that part being completely removed made their hair stand on end. Especially Dai Mubai. If he hadn't happened to stand up earlier, he probably would have ended up like the two of them, which made him wonder. Little San, you think, could those two 100,000-year spirit beasts have been intentionally making Grandmaster and Fatty lose that part? If I hadn't been so lucky, I'm afraid. Dai Mubai said with lingering fear. That shouldn't be the case, should it? Why would those two spirit beasts target us for no reason? It should have been a coincidence. Tang San said after a moment of contemplation. HMPH, it's better if they hit. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Dai Mubai with a disgusted expression. You, Zhu Zhuqing, I've tolerated you for a long time, don't go too far. Dai Mubai had already been enduring a lot of hardship, and coupled with this trip to the Stardew Great Forest where he almost lost his life, his long-suppressed emotions finally erupted. Endure? Why should he endure? He was the third prince of the Stardew Empire. And Zhu Zhuqing was just a member of the Zhu family. In terms of status, he was still superior. Initially, when Zhu Zhuqing caught him in the act, he felt a bit guilty, and coupled with Zhu Zhuqing traveling thousands of miles from the Stardew Empire to find him, his behavior had been restrained. But in Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, it seemed as if he was afraid, or had something to ask of her. Ridiculous. He had only thought that it would be best if they could get along harmoniously, as the compatibility for their martial soul fusion skill would be higher then. But now, it seemed he had been too lenient, and they thought he was a sick cat. What, feeling guilty? Zhu Zhuqing's tone remained icy. She had now come to terms with it. Rather than hoping Dai Mubai would change for the better, it was better to focus on improving herself. This academy, it was fine not to stay. She would find an opportunity to leave later. Dai Mubai made a move, wanting to step forward. He wanted Zhu Zhuqing to know who was truly relying on whom. Zhao Wuji nearby chose to close his eyes and feign sleep. This was their private matter. As long as no one died in the end, it was fine. Seeing that the two were about to clash, Oscar and Tang San also came to Dai Mubai's side. Boss Dai, don't be impulsive. In this situation, neither of them wanted any other incidents to occur. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes grew even colder when she saw Dai Mubai actually stepping forward. Are you enraged? Zhu Zhuqing, don't you think I'm afraid of you? If it weren't for you coming all the way from the Stardew Empire, do you think I'd give you a good look? How have you treated me these past few days? Do you really think I have no temper? Zhu Zhuqing shook her head, not wanting to argue with Dai Mubai. And Ning Rongrong, seeing Dai Mubai about to lash out at Zhu Zhuqing, instinctively wanted to step forward to stop him. But then she remembered what Zyro Tian had told her earlier, and she immediately calmed down. Yes, she was just a support system spirit master. Even if she stood up for Zhu Zhuqing, it wouldn't be of much use, and might even bring unnecessary danger upon herself. Ning Rongrong's eyes darted around, and she called out coldly to the sky, "Are none of you coming out yet? Father sent you to protect me, not to watch a show here. If I tell Father and my two grandfathers what happened on this trip to the Stardew Great Forest, what do you think will happen? Come out now and take responsibility for guarding, perhaps that can give you a chance to make amends." As Ning Rongrong spoke, everyone present fell silent. Even the originally enraged Dai Mubai stopped, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. Tang San was slightly surprised. There were actually people from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School around, and he hadn't even noticed. However, considering Ning Rongrong's status in the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, everything made sense. His purple demon eye was currently only at the subtle stage, so it was perfectly normal for him not to detect the surroundings. A few seconds after Ning Rongrong finished speaking, 6 figures dressed in 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School attire suddenly appeared on the scene. The 6 knelt on one knee respectfully, their heads slightly bowed. "Please forgive us, miss." At this moment, cold sweat dripped from the 6. Was this still the young lady they remembered? When Ning Rongrong secretly ran away from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and made her way to Shrek, she hadn't noticed anyone following her. But now, they felt that Ning Rongrong seemed to have become even smarter. The latter was the same person Sword 15 had seen before. He knew that Ning Rongrong, after Zyro Tian's reminder, had discovered their existence while at Shrek, but he hadn't expected that at this moment, Ning Rongrong would still think of them. Just now, our group was attacked by 2 100,000-year spirit beasts. Why didn't you appear? My father and my 2 grandfathers sent you to follow me to ensure my safety, didn't they? Ning Rongrong now seemed like a changed person, completely adopting the demeanor of a superior. The leader spoke respectfully. Miss, that was because, although you were no match for the 100,000-year spirit beasts at the time, you were not in danger. The 6 of us wanted to find a suitable opportunity to take you away. After all, you should also know that the strength of a 100,000-year spirit beast is terrifying. Among the 6 of us, 5 are spirit saints, and 1 is a support system spirit emperor. Even with his 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda's amplification, it would be extremely difficult to rescue you directly from the hands of 2 great spirit beasts. The leader explained in an orderly manner. The 6 of them had indeed wanted to find a suitable opportunity to rescue the unconscious Ning Rongrong alone, but they never expected that Zyro Tian would be the one to step forward in the end, and successfully allow the young lady and the others to retreat. Therefore, they were no longer needed, and the 6 of them also breathed a sigh of relief. Facing 2 100,000-year spirit beasts, it was certainly false to say they weren't afraid. Chapter 83, Greatly Improved Strength, Terrifying 4th and 5th Soul Skills. Then why are you here now? I didn't encounter any danger. Ning Rongrong said, glancing at Dai Mubai. Dai Mubai frowned. This was Ning Rongrong's warning to him. Damn it. With these 7 treasure glazed tile school people here, he couldn't do anything at all. The leader said sincerely, Miss, although you are not in any danger now, just now was indeed our 6 people's dereliction of duty. We 6 people only hope that you will give us a chance to atone for our sins by good deeds, and please do not tell Sect Master about this, otherwise we. The leader was also somewhat on the verge of tears. If Ning Fengzhai and the 2 titled Douluo knew about this, even if the 6 of them had a legitimate reason, they would still likely face a severe punishment. Zhao Wuji knew he couldn't continue feigning ignorance, so he stood up and rubbed his hands, intending to get on good terms with these people. Flender, sensing the commotion outside, lifted the tent flap and walked out. What's going on? Flender felt several spirit saint level powerhouses suddenly appear outside the tent and couldn't help but panic, but when he saw they were from the 7 treasure glazed tile school, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. And an hour quickly passed. Flender returned to the tent and looked at Yu Xirogang and Ma Hongjun. Xiao Xin, we should be able to pull out the thin rods now, right? Xiao Xin nodded and said, yes, their flesh should have regrown by now. Once the thin rods are pulled out, just have them take the sugar pills to stop the pain and bleeding. Flender, without another word, quickly pulled them out. Oh, the pain of the flesh being torn open at that instant truly made their nerves tremble. On the other side, after a night of spirit bone absorption, Zyro Tian's spirit power successfully broke through to level 50. Thanks to Da Ming and Ming's help, he only took about 1 night to fully absorb the 200,000-year spirit bones. His spirit power unexpectedly reached level 50, but he was somewhat hesitant, wondering if such a rapid improvement was too fast. Zyro Tian stood up, condensed a small air sword in his right hand, and shot it at a nearby tree. In just an instant, the tree crashed down. And this was just a casual strike from him. He briefly assessed his own condition. There was nothing serious. It was just that the increase in spirit power caused a surge in his various attributes. He should be able to fully adapt with a few more days. Zyro Tian, congratulations on reaching level 50. Next, it should be my turn to add the 5th spirit ring for you, right? Ming was also excited. Even when Da Ming was adding the 4th spirit ring for Zyro Tian, he had wanted to try it. Zyro Tian also nodded without hesitation. The spirit ring added by the Titan giant ape was most likely attack-oriented. He hoped to gain an offensive spirit ability while also temporarily boosting his attack power. Another half an hour passed. Since Zyro Tian's 4th spirit ring was a 10,000-year one, which provided an all-around improvement to his body. The Titan giant ape added a spirit ring of about 30,000 years for his 5th spirit ring. And Zyro Tian's spirit power reached level 53. In just 1 night, he had increased his spirit power by 14 levels. How terrifying! Brother, what are the 4th and 5th spirit abilities that Da Ming and Ming provided you? Zyro Tian had now completed all his absorption, and Zyro Wu finally couldn't suppress her curiosity and asked, Deming, Zyro Wu Jai, if you knew about Zyro Tian's 2 spirit abilities, you would definitely be greatly surprised. They are both spirit abilities that he desperately needs right now. Ming, yes, and when I was adding the spirit ring for Zyro Tian, I discovered something. I can specify the direction to condense the spirit ring. This avoids the possibility of Zyro Tian acquiring a useless spirit ability. For example, just now I was thinking of adding a spirit ability that could enhance attack for Zyro Tian as much as possible, and then I was pleasantly surprised to find that it succeeded. Upon hearing this, Zyro Wu was also slightly shocked. Is it possible to do it this way? The spirit abilities granted to a spirit master by a spirit ring are full of great uncertainty. This is common knowledge in the spirit master's world, but the appearance of Zyro Tian's contracted spirit broke this common knowledge. Actually, Zyro Tian didn't find this too surprising. After all, Zyro Wu and the other 100,000-year spirit beasts who transformed into human forms could all condense suitable spirit rings for themselves. This means that they can basically determine the general direction of a spirit ability and then acquire a spirit ability that fits them. Of course, there is a big prerequisite here. This spirit ability and the abilities she possesses must not have too many discrepancies. Zyro Tian smiled at Zyro Wu and said, My 4th spirit ability is called Azure Swift Sword Dance. After activating this spirit ability, I will perform an agile sword dance, and the sword in my hand will emit sword kai in all directions as protection. During the sword dance, my movement speed increases by 100%, and after the sword dance, my attack speed increases by 200%. Zyro Wu's eyes widened. A single spirit ability actually had so many effects. It can defend, attack, increase movement speed, and attack speed. Is this the power of a 10,000-year spirit ring? It's too terrifying. Zyro Tian was very satisfied with Zyro Wu's shocked expression and continued, The 5th spirit ability is called Titan Violent Slash. After activating this spirit ability, 15 will release a powerful shock force, like a charging Titan giant ape, repelling and injuring enemies in front, and at the same time, the next attack's power increases by 200%. Ming said proudly, Zyro Wu Jai, look, the 5th spirit ability I brought Zyro Tian is very good. It not only has damage and control, but also boosts Zyro Tian's next attack. After using it, it can perfectly link with Big Brother's spirit ability. Zyro Tian also nodded, unable to control the joy on his face. These 2 spirit abilities could be combined perfectly. He just didn't know how long the 5th spirit ability could control the enemy. Was that time enough for him to use the 4th spirit ability to quickly approach the enemy? Zyro Wu smiled when she saw Zyro Tian so happy. Seeing her brother become stronger made her happier than becoming stronger herself. At this moment, Ming said, Oh, by the way, this is the external spirit bone pulled from Tang San's back. How should we deal with it? This spirit bone was not very suitable for Zyro Wu and Zyro Tian to absorb. It would be best for a spirit master with a poisonous spirit to absorb it. Deming said faintly, Give this spirit bone to Zyro Tian. He can use it later to exchange for a suitable spirit bone for Zyro Wu Jai or some other treasures. Chapter 84 Zyro Tian. Why doesn't anyone believe me when I tell the truth? Zyro Tian naturally accepted it. With this spirit bone, if he were to encounter Douluo later, he would have an additional bargaining chip. Although with his current strength, he wouldn't need to negotiate with him, as he now has 2 great spirits protecting him, and neither of them is something the current Douluo can contend with. However, he still had a very good impression of Douluo from the original work. Though reclusive, he was very loyal and suitable as a friend to be brought under his wing. Moreover, although Douluo was jokingly called the weakest, titled Douluo, his battle record in the final battle at Jialing Pass is verifiable. He directly massacred the city. While such an act is not ideal from a humanitarian perspective, it was war, and with 2 divinities on the opposing side, Douluo's faction had no choice but to take a risky approach. However, there's also a fatal problem here. How much strength a spirit can exert largely depends on the spirit master's own strength. With his current spirit power, how many full-strength moves can Da Ming and Ming sustain? At this moment, outside the Stardew Great Forest, the sun had already risen for quite some time. Alas, it seems Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu have met with misfortune. We should withdraw as soon as possible. The forest is probably unsafe now. Flender adjusted his glasses and said. He mainly said this to Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuking. The presence of the 7 treasure glazed tile schools people guarding this area was indeed putting a lot of pressure on them. Wait a little longer. Ning Rongrong frowned slightly, then looked at the leading dark guard. You are the strongest. Take 2 people and go search for Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu. We need to see them alive or their bodies if they are dead. Yes. The leader could only comply, picking an agility attack system Spirit Saint and the support system Spirit Emperor, and prepared to enter. This was their chance to atone for their mistakes, even if it was extremely dangerous. But the next moment he saw 2 figures rapidly running, flying from afar. Quick look, it's Zyro Tian and he's holding someone. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and indeed saw Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu, and Zyro Tian even had a pair of wings behind him. Zyro Tian, Zyro Wu over here, we're here. Ning Rongrong excitedly waved her hand. It seemed her decision to wait here was correct. Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu were also a bit surprised that Flender and the others would wait for them here. After all, if it weren't for their acquaintance with Da Ming and Ming, had it been other 100,000-year spirit beasts, they would likely have died. It would have been almost certain death. Zyro Tian flew to Ning Rongrong and the others, retracted his external spirit bone, and said with a smile, Rongrong, why are you still here? Ning Rongrong smiled. I didn't believe you 2 would die so easily, so we all waited here for a night. Just now I was even going to have these guards go in and look for you. After speaking, Ning Rongrong asked with some curiosity, Oh right, Zyro Tian, what were those wings behind you just now? And how did you escape from 2 100,000-year spirit beasts? Zyro Tian, those wings of yours must be an external spirit bone, right? Could it be you've broken through to 40th rank? Yu Zyrogang said after a moment of silence. Because that was the only possibility. But thinking of how his disciple Tang San's external spirit bone was pulled off by the Titan giant ape, he felt somewhat dejected. Why was his disciple, with twin spirits and innate full spirit power, so far behind Zyro Tian, who only had innate rank 5? A hint of jealousy couldn't help but rise in Tang San's heart. Zyro Tian had naturally already thought of how to answer this. This external spirit bone was something he deliberately exposed. Firstly, he wanted to quickly bring Zyro Wu out, and secondly, he didn't want to pretend anymore. Hey. Most of the wool that could be fleeced from Shrek was almost gone. To get good rewards again, he would have to wait for Tang San and the others to break through a stage in their cultivation. And even if they improved their ranks quickly, it would take at least 2 years, by which time the All-Continent Spirit Master Elite Tournament would basically be starting. He could completely fleece them again during the competition. Now, he just wanted to give a legitimate reason for his external spirit bone's existence. Grandmaster, you're right. After Zyro Wu and I miraculously escaped from the hands of 2 100,000-year spirit beasts, my spirit power under immense pressure successfully broke through to 40th rank. It was a blessing in disguise. And while we were running out, we happened upon a dying sword-winged Luan that was affected by the aftermath of the battle. It was just right for me, so I absorbed it. As he spoke, 4 spirit rings gradually appeared on Zyro Tian, all of them purple. However, the 5th spirit ring was not displayed, or rather, it was hidden by Zyro Tian. And all of this was thanks to the golden Xunyuan ring Zyro Tian wore on his hand. Yu Zyrogang. What, you're telling me your 4th spirit ring absorbed a sword-winged Luan? That type of spirit beast is basically a 10,000-year level spirit beast when it matures, and among 10,000-year spirit beasts, its speed is incredibly fast. Even a 10,000-year phoenix-tailed crested serpent can't catch up. It's just, why are your wings 6-winged? Yu Zyrogang was somewhat confused by this. The other characteristics were quite consistent with the sword-winged Luan. Zyro Tian feigned ignorance. I'm not sure about that. Maybe some kind of mutation occurred during my absorption. Yu Zyrogang's mouth twitched. It was the first time he'd heard that spirit bones could mutate, but it seemed there was no other explanation. Meanwhile, Zyro Wu was trying her best to control her facial expression. Zyro Tian was really good at making things up, hahaha. Then how did you escape from the Titan giant ape and the sky azure ball python? Tang San looked at Zyro Tian very seriously, wanting to see if Zyro Tian would lie. Oh, they saw that I was truly talented, so they let me go. Zyro Tian said casually. Ming. Ming. Everyone. Zyro Tian, are you treating me like an idiot? Tang San frowned and said. He was genuinely curious how Zyro Tian hadn't died. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed, and of course, a little secretly pleased, because Zyro Wu was also still alive. In short, his current mood was very complex. Zyro Tian, why does no one believe me when I tell the truth? Ming buzzed in Zyro Tian's mental space. Zyro Tian, you really know how to flatter yourself. Chapter 85, What kind of bear roar can scare away 200,000-year-old soul beasts? A spiritual miniature of Zyro Tian instantly condensed in the spiritual space. Although you two became my spirit souls out of consideration for Zyro Wu, you should ask yourselves, if my talent was very poor, would you have been willing? With that one sentence, Ming fell silent. Indeed, if Zyro Tian's full power hadn't truly shocked them both at the time, even if Zyro Tian had proposed the soul-spirit contract method, they wouldn't have contracted, even out of consideration for Zyro Wu Jai. It was precisely because they trusted Zyro Wu Jai that they chose to trust Zyro Tian, and Zyro Tian's talent was also very good. If this soul-spirit contract method could be refined further, once his strength improved, it might even be possible to promote it. Seeing that everyone didn't believe him, Zyro Tian suddenly had an idea, waving his hand and saying, Actually, I don't know why they let Zyro Wu and me go. At that time, it seemed like a bear's roar came from deep within the forest, and then the Titan giant ape and Sky Azure Bull Python ran away as if they had heard some command. Zyro Tian, are you perhaps lying to us? What kind of bear's roar could scare away those 200,000-year spirit beasts? Not to mention the Titan giant ape, that Sky Azure Bull Python, according to Zyrogang, is the emperor of the forest. Flender raised his doubts. Even you Zyrogang, who had perused so many ancient texts recorded by Spirit Hall, had no information about that bear's roar in his mind. Zyro Tian shook his head and said, Anyway, I just heard a bear's roar. If you don't believe me, why don't you enter the Stardew Great Forest again to verify it yourselves? The Stardew Great Forest is so vast. When we encountered the Sky Azure Bull Python before, if Grandmaster hadn't said his name, who among you would have recognized him? Hearing this, everyone stopped asking questions. What Zyro Tian said indeed made some sense. They were just very curious. What kind of bear spirit beast could make the Sky Azure Bull Python and Titan giant ape so afraid? In the spiritual space, Ming said unconvinced, Zyro Tian, tell me, what kind of bear's roar could scare me and Big Brother? Zyro Tian, Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear. Ming. Ming asked with some curiosity, how do you know of the Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear's existence? Zyro Tian, I am very knowledgeable. Ming, just don't say it then. Ming stubbornly said, HMPH, if we were of the same cultivation level, it's not certain who would be stronger, the Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear or me. Zyro Tian, however, didn't think much of it. Although he had never truly witnessed a Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear, it was rumored that a 10,000-year Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear was already beyond what an ordinary titled Douluo could handle. Whereas a 10,000-year Titan giant ape, an ordinary titled Douluo still had a high probability of defeating it. Here, ordinary titled Douluo refers to those around level 92, like Snake Lance Porcupinefish, excluding Douluo. Douluo. Feeling Zyro Tian's thoughts, Ming became enraged. Ming, stop messing around. At the same strength, you and the Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear would at most be a 40-60 or even 30-70 split. Regardless of whether it's defense or attack, the Dark Gold Terraclaw Bear possesses what you have, and in fact it surpasses you in both attack and speed. You must acknowledge this. Ming. Although he was quite unconvinced, seeing that his big brother had said so, what else could he do? Zyro Tian laughed. Ming, don't be unconvinced. If I can find some heavenly materials and earthly treasures that can change bloodlines or talents in the future, I will definitely think of you two first. Due to the contractual relationship between the three, Da Ming and Ming could both feel the sincerity in Zyro Tian's words, and they both felt much better. In these years, in order to research how to revive Zyro Wu's mother, Da Ming had also researched a lot. Therefore, he also knew that there were indeed many rare herbs on the continent that could not only change bloodlines, but even evolve spirits. Then when do you plan to take Zyro Wujai away from Shrek Academy? Do you have a new destination? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. De Ming asked indifferently. Zyro Tian had already thought about this, so he said, "Yes, I've thought about it. If I want to face off against people from Spirit Hall in the future competitions, the best choice is to join the royal academies of the two great empires. Their first team has the qualification to go straight to the final round." "What about other academies?" Ming scratched his head and asked. He wasn't very familiar with the academies in the human world. Besides the two great royal academies, there are the 5 element academies: Blazing Fire, Heavenly Water, Thunder, Elephant Armor, and Divine Wind. But as their names suggest, these 5 academies follow a path of extreme single-attribute specialization, which is not suitable for Zyro Wu and me. De Ming brought up a crucial point. Since they are royal academies, they must be filled with the descendants of officials, right? You and Zyro Wujai have no background whatsoever. How will you get in? And aren't you disgusted by those so-called nobles? Because most of them look down on commoners like you. In fact, a power like Spirit Hall is most suitable for a spirit master like you with no background whatsoever. Due to their contractual relationship, Da Ming and Ming could vaguely sense that Zyro Tian didn't have much goodwill towards those so-called nobles. Towards a power like Spirit Hall, he wasn't repulsed. If one were to disregard the conflict between spirit masters and spirit beasts, an organization like Spirit Hall was indeed the most suitable for Zyro Tian, but don't worry, I know you two are spirit beasts, and you certainly don't have much goodwill towards an organization like Spirit Hall. After all, Spirit Hall gathers over 70% of the spirit masters on the continent, which also means that their conflict with you spirit beasts is the greatest. Although I said I would interact with Spirit Hall, I never said I would definitely join Spirit Hall. After all, things are unpredictable. We can only live in the present for now. De Ming looked at Zyro Tian with a somewhat complex gaze. Zyro Tian was clearly taking their feelings into consideration. Zyro Wujai really found a good person. However, in his perception, Zyro Tian wasn't without flaws. Oh no, he didn't even need to perceive it. He and Ming could clearly see that Zyro Tian also had a considerable liking for the one named Ning Rongrong. As for the other one named Xu Zhuqing, it wasn't too obvious for now. Zyro Tian, this person, clearly cultivates the sword, but his emotions seem a bit rich. The most fatal thing is, Zyro Wujai doesn't seem to have noticed this. Or has she noticed, but is confident in herself? Initially, Zyro Tian did have the idea of joining Spirit Hall, but as time passed, this idea gradually changed, and the source of all this was Bibaidong and Kaian Renxiu, which led to him having to make a backup plan. Chapter 86, Shushan Sect's Plan, Critical Hit Reward. This second preparation, of course, was to establish a sect, just like Tang San. Zyro Tian had carefully considered this second preparation. Most of his current sword moves and movement techniques originated from the Wine Sword Immortal, so he could establish something like the Shushan Sword Sect in this world. He wondered if there was a Shu Mountain sect in Tang San's world. If there was, what kind of expression would Tang San show? Just thinking about it made Zyro Tian feel excited. Moreover, Zyro Tian had also weighed his options. If he joined Spirit Hall, he would have to be subservient to others, making it inconvenient to do things, unless he gained a lot of power within Spirit Hall. But Zyro Tian was self-aware. How could that be easy? Even if his sword Dao talent and spirit power were high due to the system, having just joined Spirit Hall, he was ultimately not one of their own. And the most crucial point was Bibaidong. At this point in time, she was actually a bit crazy. Who knew what other actions she might take after he proposed the soul spirit contract method to her later. In the original work, Bibaidong later wanted to kill Zyro Wu Da Ming and Ming to obtain their spirit rings and spirit bones. If he were to actively approach Bibaidong now, what would happen to Zyro Wu and the others? Unless he could find a way to first purify the Rakshasa evil raid within Bibaidong and make her fully regain her sanity. As for getting on good terms with Kaian Renxiu, that's not happening. Kaian Renxiu, seeing his talent and strength, would only want to recruit him as her subordinate, not as a friend. After establishing the Shushan Sword Sect, he would gradually develop the initial ability to contend with Spirit Hall. Furthermore, establishing a force wasn't actually too much trouble. After joining Spirit Hall, if he truly gained Bibaidong's attention, he would also need to subdue other large and small sects, and the established Shushan sword sect could then incorporate these sects for its own use. As for the method of the spirit-soul equal contract, Zyro Tian actually felt there were still imperfections. For example, after Da Ming and Ming signed the contract with him, limited by his current strength, they couldn't unleash their full power at all. If this contract could be slightly modified later, allowing Da Ming and Ming to simply sign the contract with him, but still be able to exert their strength from before the contract, that would be perfect. This would be beneficial for both him and Da Ming and Ming. Feeling Zyro Tian's intentions, Da Ming and Ming in the mental space felt a slight warmth in their hearts. They had not misjudged him. On the road, Zyro Tian and his group did not rush like they did on the way there. Instead, they walked and stopped, resting whenever they passed by an interesting place to alleviate the fright they had experienced in the Stardew Great Forest. Zyro Tian also learned of the words Dragon Duke Snake Lady left behind before they departed. However, he didn't pay much attention to it. In the original work, why did Dragon Duke Snake Lady choose to help Tang San? Wasn't it because he had a good father? They wanted Tang Hao to owe them a favor, which is why they openly defied Yu Guan, but in the end they didn't gain any benefits, their efforts were in vain. This was far inferior compared to Du Gubo. Initially Du Gubo didn't kill Tang San indeed because of Tang Hao, but later, because Tang San could truly help him and Du Guyan detoxify, their relationship gradually improved. From an original hostile relationship to a benefactor relationship, to a friend relationship, and finally to a life-and-death relationship. Although the detoxification method Tang San gave Du Gubo only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. But this also showed Du Gubo's character. Tang San only detoxified Du Gubo from beginning to end, but what about Du Gubo? Not only did he use immortal herbs freely, he also broke his own rules and joined the Tang sect, and later he even died to help Tang San. He didn't die in the novel. Zyro Tian also checked the evil exorcising swordplay that the system had previously rewarded him with midway. It was then that he discovered the words that had appeared in his mind before, and there were new rewards added to the system space. Ding, holy crap, host has once again shocked this system. You actually made the divine officials Da Ming and Ming your spirit souls, and successfully snatched Zyro Wu, the Usura sword sheath, from Tang God King's side, thus triggering a critical reward. Obtain the advanced version of the Spirit Soul Equal Contract method, Shu Mountain Swordplay, and a God-bestowed Spirit Ring. Advanced Spirit Soul Equal Contract. After contracting a Spirit Soul, the Spirit Soul can exert its full strength from before the contract. The Spirit Soul and Spirit Master are in complete equality. The Spirit Soul can accelerate its cultivation through the Spirit Master, and the Spirit Master can use the Spirit Soul for combat. When the Spirit Soul fights, it consumes its own spirit power. Holy crap! He was just thinking about this, and he didn't expect the system had already prepared it for him. The itinerary for this trip to the Stardew Great Forest was too tight. He hadn't had time to check the rewards given by the system, and this time it was as powerful as ever. Shu Mountain Swordplay. The swordplay of the Shu Mountain sect, which includes sword moves such as Heavenly Sword, Myriad Swordsmanship, and Sword Control Technique. Zyro Tian had to admit, this system really understood him. With this Shu Mountain swordplay, he could learn sword moves in a more systematic way. Including the sword control technique, he had previously used it based on his own impressions, and there were inevitably some shortcomings. When he found time to practice it properly later, his own swordplay would definitely improve. Subsequently, Zyro Tian focused his attention on the evil exorcising swordplay, which he cared about the most. He was a bit curious if cultivating the evil exorcising swordplay truly required self-castration. If that were the case, then it could only be left to gather dust in his spirit tool. Then Zyro Tian opened the first page of the evil exorcising sword manual in his mind, and several large characters were prominently written on it. Evil exorcising swordplay, first layer. To cultivate this skill, one must first castrate oneself. Zyro Tian. Zyro Tian's heart skipped a beat. Zyro Tian was silent. Zyro Tian turned the page. Zyro Tian was fuming. Zyro Tian patiently continued to flip through, eventually reaching the last page. No need for self-castration, success is still possible. Originally, when Zyro Tian saw this sentence, he was happy for a moment, but then he saw the annotation that followed. Although success is possible without self-castration, it will greatly reduce the power of the evil exorcising swordplay, and the cultivator will easily suffer from Kai and blood surging, leading to Kai deviation. Zyro Tian. It's useless, it's useless. Suddenly, Zyro Tian had a flash of inspiration. After reading the evil exorcising swordplay, he suddenly discovered that the swordplay could be improved. Although the modified version might not be as powerful as the original, at least it wouldn't lead to Kai deviation. Zyro Tian knew that this should be the ability brought to him by the increase in comprehension, which allowed him to improve the flaw of the evil exorcising swordplay that required self-castration. Immediately, he put the evil exorcising sword manual into his spirit tool, planning to study it later when he had time. Chapter 87, Improved Sword Technique to Exorcise Evil Spirits. Isn't this blue-silver grass? A few days later, Zyro Tian and his group finally returned to Shrek Academy. Ening Rongrong found that her grandpa's sword was not in the academy. He probably hadn't arrived yet, right? Alright, although the trip to Stardew Great Forest was quite thrilling, Oscar and Zyro Tian both had good harvests. I'll give you 3 days off to rest well, and then we'll proceed with the next stage of training. Flender said to everyone. Then he disappeared by himself. Tang San. Yu Zyrogang looked at Tang San and said, "Little San, come with me for a moment." He was a bit worried that Tang San might feel unbalanced because his spirit bone was removed, and then he saw Zyro Tian obtain an external spirit bone, the sword wing. He felt it was necessary to counsel him. People aren't afraid of comparison. What they're afraid of is comparing themselves and finding they're inferior in all aspects. Originally, Tang San was quite pleased with himself for getting an 8 Spider Lance's external spirit bone. But now his external spirit bone was gone, while Zyro Tian had one. This feeling was not pleasant. Zyro Tian, eager to improve the evil exorcising swordplay, bid farewell to Zyro Wu and the others, then immediately shut himself in his room. I'm going into seclusion for these 3 days. I'm off. Zyro Wu and others. Going into seclusion right after returning. So diligent. Zyro Wu and the other two exchanged glances, secretly making up their minds. Cultivate. After closing his door, Zyro Tian sat cross-legged on his bed. He had already memorized all the essential points of the evil exorcising swordplay on the way back. Now, he just needed to figure out how to improve it. De Ming and Ming also flew out of Zyro Tian's spiritual space. Phew, finally I can breathe some fresh air. There's nothing in this spiritual space. Even if I can see the outside world, I always feel like something is missing. Ming couldn't help but complain a little. All right, let's not disturb Zyro Tian's cultivation. Besides, we followed him out not for fun, right? It's good for Zyro Tian's strength to improve quickly. Otherwise, when my cultivation reaches 200,000 years and I resist the heavenly tribulation, it might affect him. During these few days of returning to the academy, Zyro Tian also secretly revised the contract with Da Ming and Ming to an advanced version one night. After that, Da Ming and Ming clearly felt that their own strength was the same as before the contract, and they were no longer limited by Zyro Tian's own strength. They were also very surprised by this. How long had it been? Zyro Tian had actually improved this contract method for them. Overthinking is the most fatal. In just a few days, they could clearly feel Zyro Tian's genuine kindness towards them. Zyro Tian was currently focused on improving the evil exorcising swordplay and had no idea what Da Ming and Ming were thinking. Inside Zyro Tian's spirit tool, there was also a blue-silver grass swaying. During this time, she had been quietly observing the outside world, as if she had been forgotten. Achoo! Zyro Tian suddenly sneezed, rubbing his nose. He didn't pay it any mind. Yin. Well, Zyro Tian had temporarily forgotten about Yin. After all, he had so many things to do now. How could he still care about Yin? He just let her stay in the spirit tool and experience it herself. At this moment, in Zyro Tian's mind, the sword manual of the evil exorcising swordplay was displayed in text form. Then Zyro Tian realized that the reason one needed to castrate oneself to cultivate the evil exorcising swordplay was due to an extreme pursuit of a specific state of mind and a method of internal energy, spirit power circulation. So how could he unleash the stronger power of the evil exorcising swordplay without self-castration? Subsequently, he discovered that the internal energy of the evil exorcising swordplay was originally too rigid and extreme, becoming even more so after self-castration. This could be harmonized by introducing other internal cultivation methods, incorporating the concept of yin and yang balance to achieve equilibrium between rigidity and flexibility in the internal energy. This way, it could retain the speed and sharpness of the evil exorcising swordplay while avoiding loss of control due to overly rigid internal energy. As for introducing other internal cultivation methods, it was actually very simple. He could incorporate what he had learned from the Xunyuan Sword Sutra into it for improvement, making it achieve yin and yang balance. Soon an hour passed, and Zyro Tian finally completed the improvement of the entire evil exorcising swordplay. However, to better adapt to the improved evil exorcising swordplay, Zyro Tian took out silver needles from his spirit tool. He planned to stimulate the acupoints all over his body, unblock some meridians within his body, and expand the capacity of his meridians to withstand the power after performing the evil exorcising swordplay. Controlling needles with Kai. De Ming and Ming suddenly noticed the commotion from Zyro Tian's side. Zyro Tian had stripped off his upper garment, his eyes tightly shut, but several silver needles floated in the air, piercing into Zyro Tian's skin at an extremely fast speed. Holy crap, big brother, look, what is Zyro Tian doing? He's turned himself into a hedgehog. Ming was a bit bewildered. De Ming shook his head slightly. I'm not sure either. Let's just stand guard by his side. Zyro Tian should know what he's doing. What they could do now was to guard by Zyro Tian's side. They were now tightly bound to Zyro Tian, and they didn't want anything to happen to him. Another hour passed. Boom! Zyro Tian's body trembled, and he opened his eyes, his gaze sharp like a ruler. The silver needles on his body were shaken off by Zyro Tian's own aura, and all pierced into the wood. Zyro Tian performed an internal examination of his body, and found that his meridians had indeed widened considerably, and the flow of spirit power was smoother and faster. It took almost 2 hours, but he finally improved the evil exorcising swordplay. Now, he just needed to test the final result. Suddenly, something seemed to flash in Zyro Tian's mind. He patted his head. How could he have forgotten about this? Instantly, the ring on Zyro Tian's hand flashed, and a potted plant containing a blue-silver grass appeared in Zyro Tian's hand. Oh Zyro Tian, why do you have an interest in growing blue-silver grass? Ming originally wanted to congratulate Zyro Tian on his successful cultivation, but then he saw Zyro Tian suddenly take out a blue-silver grass and asked curiously. Things like blue-silver grass were common in the Stardew Great Forest. Although they were spirit beasts in Ming's eyes, they were pretty much like weeds, with only the characteristic of strong vitality. Even if they were killed, they could still grow new ones from their roots. No, Ming, look closely at the blue-gold patterns on this blue-silver grass. This isn't a blue-silver grass. This is one of the inherent characteristics of the blue-silver emperor. De Ming, with his sharp eyes, noticed the difference in this blue-silver grass. But in his impression, the blue-silver emperor was a 100,000-year spirit beast, fundamentally different from blue-silver grass. This one in front of him was clearly a 100-year-old blue-silver grass. Chapter 88. Why is he being hunted down when he has clearly entered maturity? Zyro Tian said indifferently, Oh, this is the blue-silver emperor, Yin, Tang Hao's original wife. What, you said this is the blue-silver emperor who sacrificed herself for Tang Hao back then? Then how is she now? Ming asked in shock. De Ming, on the other hand, understood this aspect a bit more. This should be the special resurrection method for plant-type spirit beasts. As long as a seed is left in the end, it can undergo recultivation. However, this method should only be usable once, and only a 100,000-year plant-type spirit beast has such an ability. Subsequently, Da Ming sighed even more. Alas, I have to say, the vitality of the blue-silver grass is truly tenacious. Even after sacrificing herself, she can be reborn. If Auntie had this ability back then, even if she became an ordinary soft-bones demon rabbit to cultivate again, what would it matter? What a pity. Ming didn't think as much as Da Ming. His small body floated around the potted plant and observed it carefully, asking curiously, Zyro Tian, since this is Tang Hao's wife, why is she with you? You wouldn't have any ideas about a plant, would you? There was some scrutiny in Ming's eyes, and Da Ming also looked at Zyro Tian upon hearing this. Zyro Tian was instantly so startled that cold sweat almost flowed out. After all, he took this plant, and did not eradicate Yin while she was weak to get system rewards, which did have some other intentions. So being stared at by the two beasts made him feel a little guilty. But Zyro Tian still pretended to be calm. How could that be, Da Ming? Ming, you also see, the person Yin likes is Tang Hao, and now she is just a blue-silver grass. I don't even know what she looks like. What ideas could I have? Then where did you find the blue-silver emperor, and why did you bring her with you? Da Ming said in confusion. Actually, the ancestral land of the blue-silver grass is in the Stardew Great Forest, but after Yin sacrificed herself, Tang Hao surprisingly didn't take her to the ancestral land to recover her cultivation. How strange. Doesn't he want Yin to recultivate and transform quickly? It's hard to say for other plant-type spirit beasts, but as far as I know, the blue-silver emperor is the only emperor among the blue-silver grass clan. Unless she truly perishes or voluntarily abdicates, a new emperor basically won't appear, and her rule over the blue-silver grass is extremely domineering. All the blue-silver grass on the continent can provide their life force to the blue-silver emperor within a certain period of time. If Yin returned to the blue-silver ancestral land, absorbing all the energy of the ancestral land, plus the supply of life force from thousands of blue-silver grass, it might not take too much time for her to recultivate to a 100,000-year level. Back then, the not too much time Da Ming referred to here was relative. After all, if the blue-silver emperor didn't have external assistance, even if she was recultivating, it would probably still take several thousand or even 10,000 years to cultivate to a 100,000-year level. This was also because of her inherent imperial bloodline. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so fast at all, unless she could obtain some heavenly treasures to accelerate her cultivation speed. Since Yin had always been in Zyro Tian's storage spirit tool, and Zyro Tian hadn't actively shielded her, she knew that the ape and snake in front of her were the Titan giant ape. And the sky azure bull python. The two overlords of the Stardew Great Forest. What was even more shocking was that Zyro Wu was also a 100,000-year spirit beast who had transformed, and she could tell that her son had a good impression of Zyro Wu, but Zyro Tian had intercepted her. And Zyro Wu herself also had a good impression of Zyro Tian. It was a mutual attraction, with only Tang San having unrequited love, which reminded her of Tang Hao's elder brother, Tang Zyro. Back then, both brothers had a good impression of her, but therefore Yin's mood was very complicated at this moment. But then she heard Da Ming's question, which made her plant body tremble. However, she was still comforting herself in her heart. Tang Hao wanted her to stay by his side and accompany him well. Saint Spirit Village was still too far from the Stardew Great Forest. Moreover, ever since she sacrificed herself to Tang Hao had been drowning his sorrows in wine every day. She saw all of this. It was just that her cultivation was insufficient now, so she couldn't speak, otherwise she would definitely try to persuade him. An ultimate love-struck fool. If Zyro Tian knew what Yin was thinking, he would definitely complain. However, from another perspective, this was actually normal. After all, Tang Hao's actions were all quite subtle. If one didn't delve deeper, they wouldn't find any flaws. Plus, Yin's eyes were full of Tang Hao, so she wouldn't suspect anything even more. Facing Da Ming's question, Zyro Tian first took out a box from his spirit tool, then opened it. Look, this is the 100,000-year blue-silver emperor right leg bone that Yin left behind after her sacrifice. I discovered it when I went to Saint Spirit Village, and then in a cave in the back mountain, I found Yin's trace. The moment it was opened, the aura of the 100,000-year spirit bone was about to pour out, but it was all absorbed and shielded by the Xunyuan ring on Zyro Tian's hand. Regarding Saint Spirit Village, Da Ming and Ming also had some understanding through the contractual relationship between the three. Da Ming frowned slightly and said, "It's really quite a coincidence, but wouldn't it have been enough for you to just take the spirit bone? Why did you also bring the blue-silver emperor with you?" Zyro Tian's expression was also very serious. Actually, through some special channels, I learned about the incident where Tang Hao and Yin were chased by Qian Zunji, the supreme pontiff of Spirit Hall, back then. I found that there were many hidden tricks involved, so I decided to bring Yin with me first. Hidden tricks? Ming asked in confusion. Zyro Tian said, you also know that after 100,000-year spirit beast transforms and reaches level 60 or above, it will become a human, and its 100,000-year spirit beast aura will be completely concealed. At that time when Yin was being chased, she was already a spirit saint. Moreover, why was he then pursued by the supreme pontiff of Spirit Hall, with several titled Douluo? Even Da Ming wasn't very clear about this. Since Yin was already a spirit saint at that time, excluding other possibilities, there was only one situation left. Someone secretly told Spirit Hall that Yin was a 100,000-year spirit beast who had transformed. Da Ming's voice was filled with shock. Zyro Tian nodded and said, actually, there's also a more far-fetched possibility. At the time Yin was being pursued, she was pregnant. It's also possible that giving birth to a child caused her spirit beast aura to leak, but I don't think this possibility is very high. Once she entered her mature stage, she was already a normal human. Otherwise, the child born wouldn't be a normal human like Tang San, but rather a half-human, half-beast. When Zyro Tian mentioned half-human, half-beast, the words wolf-taken appeared in his mind. Wolf-taken seemed to be the product of the union of wolf-type spirit beasts and humans, and from the fact that a spirit bone could be dropped in the original work, they were essentially spirit beasts, not humans. Chapter 89, the chase back then, was most likely directed and acted by Tang Hao himself. Are you talking about wolf-taken? Wolf-taken are quite rare creatures, they don't appear in many places. I didn't expect you Zyro Tian to know about them. But just as you said, the offspring of humans and spirit beasts are mostly half-human, half-beast, but Tang San is clearly human, so the possibility you just mentioned can basically be ruled out. As Da Ming spoke, his tone grew colder. Because he had already guessed in his heart who had leaked Yin's identity as a 100,000-year spirit beast. Is it truly for the sake of becoming stronger, resorting to any means necessary? Staging a tragic play himself? Do they really think spirit beasts are easy to bully and deceive? Tang Hao Then Ming interjected, Zyro Tian, you wouldn't treat Zyro Wujai like that, would you? Ming, don't talk nonsense. Don't you know Zyro Tian's feelings for Zyro Wujai? Ming, big brother, don't be angry, I was just saying. With that contract, of course I know Zyro Tian has no ill intentions towards Zyro Wujai. Da Ming said to Zyro Tian with some apology, Zyro Tian, please don't mind it. This Ming sometimes speaks without thinking. Zyro Tian shook his head then, while putting some of the special soil given by the system into a new flower pot. He said, so why was Yin's identity exposed back then? The only one who knew Yin was a spirit beast was Tang Hao, and Tang Zyro, after knowing Yin chose Tang Hao, must have returned to Clear Sky Sect. The probability of him knowing Yin was a 100,000-year spirit beast is very small. As he spoke, Zyro Tian had already replanted Yin into the new flower pot. He wondered how this special soil compared to the soil near the ice and fire yin-yang well. And Yin, upon hearing this, trembled all over. Her originally upright body suddenly looked a bit dispirited. But before she could feel sad, she discovered that her cultivation speed had increased dozens of times. The somewhat dim blue-gold stripes on her leaves had brightened considerably. This scene was naturally noticed by Da Ming and Ming, who said in unison, oh, this soil of yours is quite special. It can actually speed up cultivation. Where did you get it? Zyro Tian smiled mysteriously. It's a secret, I'll tell you later. Seeing Zyro Tian say this, the two stopped asking more questions, their attention still on Yin's own problem. Yin, tell me, when you were pregnant, why did Tang Hao still take you wandering outside, instead of finding a place to seclude yourselves and have the child? Da Ming asked, staring at Yin. Yin couldn't speak, she could only extend a branch and sway it from side to side. Da Ming. She doesn't know. What is in the head of this blue-silver emperor? Whether human or spirit beast, once pregnant, one needs to rest well, otherwise, if one is not careful and disturbs the fetal kai, it will be troublesome. But this blue-silver emperor actually doesn't know why Tang Hao took her running around everywhere. Forget it, you probably don't know anything, otherwise, you wouldn't have been forced to sacrifice yourself in the end. De Ming said grumpily. She was a 100,000-year spirit beast after all, but in Da Ming's eyes, she seemed even dumber than Ming. Yin. Ming. Zyro Tian, hahaha, top tier taunt, I can't hold back. So funny. Zyro Tian, do you know anything else about this matter? I always feel that the Blue-Silver Emperor being forced to sacrifice herself was definitely a tragic play staged by Tang Hao himself. De Ming's face was somewhat gloomy. Although he wasn't familiar with the Blue-Silver Emperor, they were both spirit beasts, and his Zyro Wujai was also under Tang Hao's surveillance before, so he naturally felt some empathy. Tang Hao was trying to use the same trick again, to let his son obtain Zyro Wujai's spirit ring and spirit bone. As for why the Blue-Silver Emperor's spirit bone was sealed in the back mountain and not absorbed by Tang Hao himself, he could guess that Tang Hao himself was already in a full spirit bone state and had no room to absorb it. Zyro Tian thought carefully for a moment, then said, actually, there's another suspicious point. When Tang Hao took Yin to escape Spirit Hall's pursuit, why didn't he take her to the Stardew Great Forest? That's where Yin could have exerted her best strength. At the very least, if she had unleashed her 100,000-year spirit beast aura in the forest, it would have caused a spirit beast riot or attracted your attention, and the Blue-Silver King could have sought your help, and she wouldn't have died in the end. Moreover, the Stardew Great Forest spans the two great empires. And Spirit City is also located in the middle of the two great empires. At that time, Tang Hao and Yin were clearly very close to the Stardew Great Forest. Do you think my reasoning makes sense, Yin? With the last sentence, Zyro Tian looked directly at Yin and spoke. Yin. At this moment, Yin was flustered by Zyro Tian's words and felt a bit self-isolated. If she weren't in the state of a plant right now, tears would probably have already flowed from her eyes. This damn Tang Hao, for a 100,000-year spirit ring, he actually deceived a spirit beast's feelings like this. The hearts of human spirit masters are indeed dirty. Only spirit beasts' feelings are purer. HMPH. De Ming said furiously, and even inadvertently included Zyro Tian in his scolding. Zyro Tian. Blue-Silver Emperor, as things stand, I advise you with Zyro Tian's help, if you can regain your strength in the future, don't go looking for Tang Hao again. He's not worth it. Seeing that Yin's branches and leaves were basically pressed against the flower pot, he could tell Yin's current state. She must be feeling very bad in her heart. So annoying. If only Yin could communicate with us, it would be great. Her cultivation is too low now. She can only communicate with her own kind, but we can't understand it. Ming scratched his head, annoyed. He hated thinking about these things the most. Generally, matters that required thinking were directly handed over to Da Ming. He only needed to be responsible for fighting. De Ming frowned tightly. The few of them really couldn't know Yin's attitude now. After all, they didn't understand plant language. By the way, Zyro Tian, try to see if you can sign a soul spirit contract with Yin. After the contract, we should be able to communicate mentally in the spiritual space, right? De Ming suddenly thought of such a good idea. Zyro Tian nodded, looked at Yin and touched his forehead with his right hand. Instantly, a contract formed in the air. Yin, are you willing to sign a contract with me? You should also know that after signing the contract, your cultivation speed can be greatly accelerated. With your current 100-year cultivation, you can even grow to 10,000 years in a short time, and when my body can withstand a 100,000-year spirit ring, that will be the day you reform. Chapter 90, Parasitism, No. Yin hesitated slightly when faced with Zyro Tian's soul spirit contract request. If she became Zyro Tian's spirit soul, wouldn't that mean losing her freedom? But then she thought, what if she remained as she was? She was no different from losing her freedom now, wasn't she? Thus, a faint starlight emanated from her blue-silver grass body and gradually settled into the contract in the air. The contract was complete, and Yin's original blue-silver grass disappeared from the flower pot, reappearing in its original form within Zyro Tian's spiritual space, though it looked somewhat transparent due to its lower age. De Ming and Ming also returned to Zyro Tian's spiritual space. Zyro Tian sat cross-legged on the bed again, and the four of them began conversing in the spiritual space. Yin's tone was filled with a sense of loss, yet her words remained gentle. Greetings, Titan giant ape and sky azure ball python. Yin politely greeted Da Ming and Ming. Ming said magnanimously, Blue Silver Emperor, there's no need to be so polite. Although you need to recultivate, with Zyro Tian's help, recovering your original cultivation is only a matter of time. We'll call you Yin, and you can just call us Da Ming and Ming. After a few polite exchanges, they finally got to the main topic. Yin, now that you can communicate with us, we want to hear your thoughts. If you retransform in the future, do you still intend to return to Tang Hao's side? De Ming asked a crucial question. If Yin was still deluded and wanted to return to Tang Hao's side, there would be no need to help her. They could simply dissolve the soul spirit contract on the spot. Yin shook her head and said, I heard everything you said just now, but there's always been one doubt in my mind. Why did Tang Hao become so decadent after that incident? Regarding this point, it stumped Da Ming and Ming directly. They truly couldn't think of any other reasons. Zyro Tian said indifferently, it is said that after that incident, Spirit Hall, unable to find Tang Hao's whereabouts, launched an attack on Clear Sky Sect, and the sect master of Clear Sky Sect at that time was directly angered to death. That person was Tang Hao's father. The three of them. Yin, do you think Tang Hao has a strong sense of belonging to Clear Sky Sect? Zyro Tian asked. The three people present were not fools. Zyro Tian had already made it so obvious. Yin's heart was filled with complexity. Having been with Tang Hao for so long, she knew that he had an extremely strong sense of belonging to the sect. The reason he hadn't returned to the sect all these years was because he always believed that the incident back then was his fault, leading to Clear Sky Sect's seclusion. It turned out that sealing off the mountain was just a facade. He didn't go back because of his guilt towards his father. But even if Tang Hao schemed against me like this, I still have Tang San, my son. A son is always innocent, isn't he? Yin retorted weakly to Zyro Tian and the other two. Even if Tang Hao had schemed against her, she at least had such a powerful son. Zyro Tian. Yin, don't you think your son is strange? He knows so many self-created spirit abilities, and he also makes things called hidden weapons. Zyro Tian said indifferently. He believed it was necessary to shatter all of Yin's illusions at this moment. Better a short pain than a long one. Yin. Yin frowned and said, Zyro Tian, what do you mean by that? Zyro Tian said, what I mean is, Tang San might not be your son. Yin said in disbelief, no, impossible, what evidence do you have? And what's wrong with him knowing so many self-created spirit abilities and making hidden weapons? Zyro Tian, don't you also know many self-created spirit abilities? Yin retorted directly. Zyro Tian shook his head and said, back then, you two faced the pursuit of several titled Douluo, numerous spirit Douluo and spirit saints from Spirit Hall. In that situation, you two couldn't even protect yourselves. Tang San was just a newborn baby at that time. How could he have survived that battle? Are you sure Tang Hao could protect him at all times? Even a random aftermath of a battle could have killed Tang San at that time. It's just that you're still in the dark. Tang Hao probably discovered Tang San's abnormality long ago, but he just didn't explicitly say it. After all, that body is indeed your child, but the soul might have been replaced. You mean Tang San was Parasite? No, you and Parasite are somewhat different. De Ming knew that in the spirit beast world, some special spirit beasts possess the ability to parasite. A typical example was the Dark Knight Bat-type spirit beast, but Tang San's situation was clearly not that. Yin's face grew paler. No, unless you prove it to me, and you can't clearly explain your own situation, can you? Because of the contract with Zyro Tian, Yin and the other two actually knew that Zyro Tian was not as simple as he appeared on the surface. He must have either obtained a certain powerful individual's inheritance, or had a powerful individual as a teacher behind him. Otherwise, how could Zyro Tian know everything at such a young age? Zyro Tian didn't want to argue with Yin's question, he just said a few words indifferently. My situation is quite special, you'll know when the time is right, but I can tell you very clearly that I am me, but Tang San may not necessarily be Tang San. As for the self-created spirit abilities you mentioned, I can also explain. Besides being an opportunity from my own inheritance, it's also something I've gained from constantly cultivating swordsmanship all these years. Zyro Wu can prove it. But what about Tang San? His self-created spirit abilities are all based on himself. Have you ever seen him create a spirit ability related to his spirit? Don't use the excuse of it being time-consuming. Would creating spirit abilities through one's own spirit be more difficult than those relying on the body, like Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track? And those hidden weapons, seemingly peculiar, but upon closer examination, aren't they just sneak attacks? If it were because his inherent spirit had such characteristics, then there's nothing to say, but what's the reality? His spirits are blue-silver grass and clear sky hammer. What prompted him to think of making hidden weapons? The only possibility is that before he awakened his spirit, he already knew the concept of hidden weapons. And through learning forging from Tang Hao, he simply made them. How old was Tang San at that time? Yin, your true body was near Saint Spirit Village at that time, constantly observing Tang San's every move. You didn't notice such strange behavior. Think carefully again. Tang San's purple demon eye requires absorbing that wisp of purple kai every morning for cultivation. When did Tang San start doing this in Saint Spirit Village? Chapter 91, No One Can Stop Bullying My Little Princess. Boom! Yin's mind was almost blank, and her thoughts were in a complete mess. If she remembered correctly, when Tang San was 2 or 3 years old, he would wake up very early every day to meditate and cultivate in the back mountains of Saint Spirit Village, right? That is to say, at that time, he was already starting to cultivate skills like Purple Demon Eye. At that time, he hadn't even awakened his spirit, so could this still be considered a self-created spirit ability? After all, only after awakening one's spirit can one subsequently awaken spirit power, and only then can one cultivate. It all makes sense. Yin felt that everything made sense now. Now you understand, right? And don't look at me having so many self-created spirit abilities, but before I was 6, I only simply swung my sword. As for those movement spirit abilities and sword moves, they were only cultivated after awakening my spirit. But why is Tang San still alive now? Ming scratched his large head, a little puzzled. Zyro Tian said, in this world there's a term called body snatching. Body snatching is divided into 2 types. One is when a person dies and suddenly a strange soul possesses their body. The second type is more domineering. The person hasn't died yet, but the soul directly devours and annihilates that person's soul, taking over the nest. Tang San should belong to the former. As for the rest, I won't say more. You will naturally see the evidence later. The secret arts and hidden weapons on Tang San, whose hands they were passed down from, will become clear in a few years. As Zyro Tian finished speaking, Da Ming and Ming suddenly frowned and said, there's a titled Douluo approaching. Zyro Tian, you need to be careful. Meanwhile, Yin was still immersed in what Zyro Tian called evidence. Why wait a few years? And the evidence Zyro Tian referred to was naturally the Tang sect. At that time, as long as Tang San had the intention to establish the Tang sect, and simultaneously exposed mysterious heaven skill and proposed to others the idea of establishing the Tang sect, then he would be directly exposed. Would a normal person at this age think about establishing a sect? Unless their family background was strong and they were influenced by their elders, otherwise it would be impossible. Establishing a sect first requires substantial funds, and where would a commoner like Tang San get the funds from? As soon as Zyro Tian thought of this, he secretly chuckled that the 7 treasure glazed tile school was truly a big sucker. Money shouldn't be used that way. If he remembered correctly, the transaction price of the hidden weapons Tang San provided to the 7 treasure glazed tile school was far higher than the cost price. At that time, Ning Rongrong was still his friend. Is that how Tang San treated his friends? This reminded Zyro Tian of a saying from his previous life. Whether it's cooperation or doing business, you can't find acquaintances. It's acquaintances who get fleeced the most. And if problems arise, you can't say anything because you owe a favor. This is equivalent to you paying money and still owing a favor, eventually ending up in a very awkward situation. But Ning Fengzhai, that shrewd person, probably saw through it long ago, but did it intentionally. It's a pity that in the end, the sect still ended up half destroyed. Ning Fengzhai was still too careless in the end. Why did he believe that the hidden weapons Tang San provided could help their 7 treasure glazed tile school overcome difficulties and contend with Spirit Hall? The true Tang sect hidden weapons were always kept by Tang San himself, and what they provided to others were at most mid-range hidden weapons like the huge repeating crossbow. Facing attacks from Spirit Hall's numerous Spirit Emperor and above powerhouses, and even several titled Douluo, these hidden weapons were simply not enough. Zyro Tian shook his head and stopped thinking too much. With him here this time, he wouldn't allow the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School to get too involved with Tang San. If he really wanted to establish a sect later, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School would be a very good partner, and he had something even better than Tang San's hidden weapons. Hey. Feeling the aura of the titled Douluo outside, and that unique sword intent, he already knew who had arrived. Sword Douluo Chen Xin. When Zyro Tian walked out, everyone else was already outside, except for Tang San. Grandpa Sword, you're finally here. We've been waiting for you for a long time. Having not seen Chen Xin for so many days, Ning Rongrong couldn't control her facial expression and ran over excitedly, grabbing his arm and shaking it. Haha, Rongrong, didn't I rush over as soon as I received your message? Have you been bullied at Shrek these past few days? Let me tell you, if your father hadn't stopped me, the day I found you weren't there, I probably would have gone out to bring you back. Chen Xin unhesitatingly sold out Ning Fengzhai, directly clearing his own name. So as soon as he received a message from his little princess, he rushed over without delay. The Rongrong had grown up in the sect since childhood. Where had she ever traveled far? And for so many days. He missed her terribly. At the same time, Flender flew over with Yu Xiaorogang and a few others. As soon as they arrived, they heard Sword Douluo Chen Xin asking Ning Rongrong if she had been bullied, and cold sweat immediately dripped down. Ning Rongrong's eyes darted around and she said, "Oh, Grandpa Sword, you don't even look at who I am. I'm the little devil girl Ning Rongrong. It's more like I bully them, so you don't need to worry." Originally, Ning Rongrong had planned to tell Grandpa Sword about Yu Xiaorogang's matters, but then she thought, what's the difference between this and a child tattling in public? This kind of thing was beneath her. Moreover, thanks to Zyro Tian's help, she hadn't suffered too much grievance. When Chen Xin heard this, he was slightly stunned, the smile on his face disappeared, and he just looked at Ning Rongrong for several seconds. For a moment, he truly felt that their little princess had grown up. When she suffered grievances outside, she didn't actively say anything, she knew how to lie. At this moment, Chen Xin's heart was extremely complex. He understood Ning Rongrong's character very well. Within the sect, with them doting on her, there were some things that, although they caused them headaches, they would still accommodate. But outside, it was different. Because Ning Rongrong's spirit was the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda, without any combat power, and their sect was far from here, if anything happened, it would be difficult for them to take care of her. The most crucial point was that he learned from Feng Zhai that he had sent a letter to Flender, asking him to temper Ning Rongrong's character well. So he was very clear that their little princess had definitely suffered grievances, but according to her previous character, she would definitely have complained. But now, for some reason, while Chen Xin was relieved, he also felt a little heartache. But these were all things Ning Rongrong had to experience to grow. She was the future successor of the sect. However, that letter was written by Feng Zhai. It was Feng Zhai's intention, not his intention. HMPH. Anyone who dared to make his little princess suffer grievances, even if the King of Heaven came, it wouldn't work. What's more, Flender was just a small spirit saint. Chapter 92 Flanders, my heart is finally hanging in the balance. Chen Xin's gaze shifted, instantly fixing on Flender, and the corner of his mouth slightly curled up. Flender, our Rongrong hasn't been wronged here, has she? How about we have a good chat privately later? The last 2 words, Chen Xin's tone was extremely heavy. It's over. It's completely over. Seeing Chen Xin's attitude, Flender knew he wanted to pursue the matter, so he could only force a strained, ugly smile. Grandpa Sword, Rongrong is the little princess of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, who here would dare to wrong her? As he spoke, Flender didn't forget to give Ning Rongrong a look, but Ning Rongrong pretended not to see it. What? Where's that attitude you had before, wanting to control this girl? Didn't you say a spirit master who doesn't cause trouble isn't a good spirit master? I'll show you now what happens when you cause trouble. Hey. Ning Rongrong chuckled mischievously in her heart, and at the same time, her heart warmed slightly. She didn't expect her grandpa sword to stand up for her. She hadn't even planned on it. Seeing Ning Rongrong ignore his gaze, Flender's hanging heart finally died. Didn't the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School send a letter saying they could properly temper Ning Rongrong? Chen Xin, we told you to temper her, but we didn't say we wouldn't mess with you, did we? It's a good time to temper your bones too. Immediately, Chen Xin also withdrew his gaze, landing it on Zyro Tian in front of him. He hadn't forgotten the purpose of his trip. In the spiritual space. Zyro Tian, are you sure Zyro Wujai's aura won't be discovered by this titled Douluo, and us too as well? De Ming's tone held some concern. Meanwhile, Zyro Wu, who had been extremely nervous the moment she saw Chen Xin, relaxed when she saw that Chen Xin wasn't looking at her strangely, not even glancing her way. The ring her brother gave her was truly amazing. You are the Zyro Tian that Rongrong spoke of, with innate spirit power of level 5, but whose own spirit power has already reached spirit ancestor. Most importantly, Rongrong told me you possess a very strong sword Dao talent. Could you show me? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Chen Xin spoke in as approachable a tone as possible. He wouldn't doubt anything Rongrong said, but he still needed to confirm it himself. It was simply too astonishing. Zyro Tian preferred Chen Xin's attitude, so he gave Yu Zyrogang a look, letting him experience it for himself. Both were making requests of others, but this was the difference. Although Chen Xin's good attitude was likely due to Ning Rongrong's influence, Zyro Tian didn't care about that at all. Yu Zyrogang. Grandpa Sword, you're mistaken. Zyro Tian is already a 4-ring spirit ancestor. Ning Rongrong said excitedly. What, a 12-year-old 4-ring spirit ancestor? That's not right. Rongrong, when you sent me the message, didn't you say Zyro Tian was only a level 39 spirit elder? Chen Xin was truly shocked. What kind of sword Dao talent was this? Oh no, is this child's innate spirit power really only level 5? Ning Rongrong simply recounted their trip to the Stardew Great Forest, but she downplayed and glossed over the part about the guards not acting in time. The hidden guards also breathed a sigh of relief, and at the same time, their favorable impression of Ning Rongrong increased by a few points. At this moment, Ning Rongrong finally showed a hint of her father Ning Fengzhai's methods. Since the incident had already occurred, and she was unharmed, rather than letting the sect punish them, it was better to win over their hearts. She was, after all, the sect master's successor, and needed to start building her reputation from a young age. Chen Xin was shocked beyond belief when he heard that Zyro Tian dared to act as bait alone in front of 200,000-year spirit beasts, letting everyone else leave first. Was this the courage a 12-year-old boy should possess? Zyro Tian, thank you. Our 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School owes you a favor. As long as it's within our capability, just speak your mind. Chen Xin's attitude became even more sincere. If this child didn't perish midway, he would surely achieve great things. This was Chen Xin's evaluation of Zyro Tian. At the same time, he was even more displeased with Flender and the others, glaring at them fiercely and saying, "How can you call yourselves teachers? To let a 12-year-old boy who just started cultivating not long ago cover your retreat, where's your face?" He and Zyro Tian were both sword cultivators, so to a certain extent, their dispositions were similar. In his eyes, as a teacher and the strongest among these people, you must step forward and protect the weak. And in the original work, Sword Douluo Chen Xin also upheld this belief, choosing to stay behind alone to cover the retreat of others when facing the Spirit Hall's sneak attack on the sect. Flender, Zhao Wuji, and the others were so openly reprimanded by Chen Xin that even with their thick skin, they were deeply ashamed and remained silent. Chen Xin said with some heartache, "Rongrong, why don't you come back to the sect with me after this? You were just lucky this time, otherwise, the 3 of us would have been seeing off a younger generation. I'll talk to Fengzhai. It's really him. He insisted on letting you suffer a bit outside, and now look, you've suffered and almost died." Chen Xin grew angrier as he spoke, looking as if he was ready to return to the sect and fight Ning Fengzhai. Ning Rongrong smiled and shook her head, saying, "Grandpa Sword, please don't say that. I feel like I've gained a lot from this trip." Ning Rongrong didn't say whether she would return to the sect. She had finally made friends with Zyro Tian, Zyro Wu, and Zhuking at Shrek, and she didn't want to leave just like that. unless the three of them wanted to leave with her. Chen Xin, being an experienced person, understood Ning Rongrong's thoughts and knew that she had made some good friends here, so he decided to observe. However, this time his gaze lingered on Zyro Wu for a few seconds, thinking, was it this little girl who was unwilling to leave, accompanying Zyro Tian to face the Titan Giant Ape and the Sky Azure Bull Python, 2 100,000-year spirit beasts, alone? It seemed her relationship with Zyro Tian was not simple, which made Chen Xin frown slightly. Judging by his Rongrong's behavior, he had a very good impression of Zyro Tian. After his brief observation, he indeed had extraordinary bearing and was a talent. If Rongrong liked him, he wouldn't object to them being together, he would even wholeheartedly approve. But in the current situation, it seemed they could only let nature take its course. And Chen Xin's slight frown was immediately caught by Zyro Wu, who had been observing him in secret, causing her heart to tighten. Could Chen Xin have discovered something? But she chose to trust Zyro Tian, and quietly stood beside him without making any other moves. She only relaxed when Chen Xin shifted his gaze back to Zyro Tian. "Please." Chen Xin smiled slightly, gesturing to Zyro Tian. Chapter 93, The Sword of Exorcism vs. Sword Dao Chen Xin. Immediately Zyro Tian extended his right hand, and a paint black iron sword appeared in his hand. 4 spirit rings, purple, purple, purple and purple, slowly emerged on the sword body. Regarding the fact that Zyro Tian's spirit rings started at the 1,000-year level, Rongrong had vaguely mentioned it in the letter, but even with psychological preparation, he still couldn't hide his shock. His first spirit ring was a 1,000-year one. Could a normal person achieve this? "I never expected your talent to be so outstanding. As far as I know, no one on the continent has ever had their first spirit ring be a 1,000-year one. Unless absolutely necessary, you'd best not reveal your spirit rings, otherwise, if those with ill intentions find out, I'm afraid it will." Then Chen Xin changed the subject and asked, "How about you join our 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School? With the protection of our 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, your future achievements will definitely not be inferior to mine." Chen Xin hadn't yet seen Zyro Tian display his sword Dao talent, but just the configuration of his spirit rings was enough to make his heart pound. This was the talent Feng Zhai had been searching for all these years. No, a monster. However, Zyro Tian didn't hesitate much and directly shook his head, politely refusing. "Thank you for the invitation, Sword Douluo, but I don't want to join a sect too early. I want to gain more experience freely outside." Chen Xin wasn't too surprised by Zyro Tian's answer, because he already knew that Rongrong had written this letter precisely because she hadn't succeeded in inviting him. "All right then, since that's the case, I won't force you. I just hope you can take good care of our Rongrong. After all, she's just a support system spirit master and has no self-preservation ability. Within the sect, we 2 old fellows are guarding her, but outside, like this time, if it weren't for your protection, she probably would have." Zyro Tian nodded and said, "Don't worry, Rongrong is my friend. If she encounters danger, I will naturally help her." "Good. Then let's not waste any more time. Can you show me your strength? I'm becoming more and more interested in you. Your spirit ring configuration is already so strong. Your sword Dao talent is probably even more extraordinary. You don't look like a spirit master with only 5 levels of innate spirit power at all." "No problem, but Sword Douluo, how about we do this as a sparring match? I just learned a new swordplay." "Could you be my practice target?" Zyro Tian said unceremoniously. He now just wanted to try out the power of the improved evil exorcising swordplay and see what kind of improvement it could bring him. "Oh, interesting." Zyro Wu also asked curiously from the side, "Brother, when did you master a swordplay? Why don't I know about it?" Zyro Wu usually cultivated with Zyro Tian, so she was relatively clear about his sword moves, most of which were based on sword kai. Now he had actually mastered a swordplay. "When did this happen?" Zyro Tian said calmly, "Just now. I spent a few hours creating a sword manual, but I haven't officially practiced it yet." Zyro Wu. Enning Rongrong also said with some surprise, "Zyro Tian, are you saying that when you rushed into your room and said you were going into seclusion, it was for this?" "That's right. Silence, it was the Cambridge of tonight." "Good, since that's the case, I'll be your sparring partner today. I hope you can bring me a surprise." Chen Xin also laughed heartily. His 7-kill sword appeared in his right hand, and 9 spirit rings emerged simultaneously. He genuinely felt that Zyro Tian was truly too interesting. Although his tone when speaking was neither hurried nor slow, one could hear the arrogance within it. With all 9 spirit rings out, Flender and the others couldn't help but retreat a few steps. A titled Douluo powerhouse, terrifying as such. Tang San and the others also consciously made space for Zyro Tian and Sword Douluo. Tang San looked at Sword Douluo and thought to himself, should he find an opportunity later to recommend his hidden weapons to Sword Douluo. Although his godly huge crossbow hadn't been made yet, he already had lower-tier hidden weapons like the silent sleeve dart and the tight-backed flower-adorned crossbow. Tang San kept calculating how to act. Zyro Tian and Sword Douluo Chengxin stood facing each other, and the atmosphere on the scene immediately became tense. Chenzin nodded slightly, indicating that Zyro Tian could begin. He wanted to see what kind of swordplay it was. Zyro Tian's expression was solemn, and he shook the long sword in his hand, a faint sword hum sounding. In an instant, Zyro Tian's figure moved like lightning, launching an attack first, closing in at an extremely fast speed. The improved evil exorcising swordplay was unleashed in his hands, its sword momentum like a strong wind and torrential rain, sweeping towards Chenzin. Zyro Tian's sword was as fast as lightning. His sword moves were strange and unpredictable, sometimes like a spirit snake emerging from its hole, extremely tricky, and sometimes like a fierce eagle swooping down, powerful and sharp. Chenzin's eyes narrowed, and he gently waved his 7-kill sword, easily blocking Zyro Tian's tricky sword moves. At the same time, he was shocked in his heart. This swordplay is so strange, seemingly fierce, yet combining firmness with softness, countering every move. If he were at the same level as Zyro Tian, he probably wouldn't be able to block it so easily, and might even be injured. Could this really be a move developed by someone Zyro Tian's age? Not bad, but if it's just like this, I'm afraid it's not enough. Chenzin couldn't help but praise, while also wanting to see if Zyro Tian had any other moves. This is just the beginning, Sword Douluo. Zyro Tian saw that his offensive was completely taken by Chenzin, but he was not discouraged, as this was within his expectations. Boom! The next moment, an extremely strong sword intent erupted from Zyro Tian, and the sword body of 15 also hummed. Immediately Zyro Tian's sword momentum shifted, attacking Chenzin even more fiercely. His figure constantly flickered around Chenzin, his sword moves continuous, each move containing an extremely strong sword intent. This time, Chenzin couldn't remain calm either. This was it. It seemed Rongrong really didn't lie to him. Well done. At the same time, Chenzin's aura changed, becoming suddenly sharp. He also unleashed his sword intent, and his 7-kill sword carried a faint killing aura. But this did not mean he had murderous intent towards Zyro Tian. It was the inherent characteristic of his 7-kill sword. The more blood the 7-kill sword stained, the more intense its killing aura became. However, since he was only acting as Zyro Tian's sparring partner, he only displayed a tiny bit of his strength to block Zyro Tian's offensive. His interest was also piqued by Zyro Tian. His 7-kill sword danced, its sword momentum powerful and sweeping, solely to block Zyro Tian's attacks. Again, Zyro Tian let out a low shout, and his figure instantly split into several phantoms, attacking Chenzin simultaneously from different directions. This was precisely the phantom flash strike that Zyro Tian had improved by incorporating a bit of immortal wind cloud body technique into the evil exorcising swordplay. Outside the field, Tang San subconsciously activated his purple demon eye, attempting to discern which one was Zyro Tian's true body, but Zyro Tian's true form seemed to be constantly changing, making it impossible for him to lock onto it. This made his expression look very unpleasant. Chapter 94 Token. Tang San couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. If only his purple demon eye could reach the subtle realm, then he would definitely be able to see through Zyro Tian's movements. Wow, Zyro Tian's newly developed swordplay looks so powerful, and it seems he's even integrated his previous movement techniques into it, Ning Rongrong said excitedly, her eyes sparkling. In her opinion, Zyro Tian was already pressing Grandpa's sword. Zyro Wu also nodded blankly. I don't know what brother's brain is made of. He actually developed such a set of swordplay in just a few short hours. Tang San, standing nearby, said with a hint of jealousy, Zyro Wu, you believe whatever Zyro Tian says. Maybe he already knew this swordplay. How could he develop such a set of swordplay in just a few hours? Oscar also chimed in. Yeah, wrong. Zyro Tian saying that is probably just to get Sword Douluo's attention. Enning Rongrong snorted coldly. Shut up, then tell me if this swordplay is so powerful, why didn't he use it in the Stardew Great Forest? And on our way back, did he practice it secretly alone? This. Tang San and Oscar were speechless, utterly unable to retort. Interesting, but it still seems a bit lacking for me. Although Chen Xin was slightly surprised, he remained calm. He instantly saw Zyro Tian's true body. With a swing of his 7-kill sword, a powerful sword intent erupted, shattering all of Zyro Tian's illusions. Then Zyro Tian, unhurried, swiftly adjusted his sword stance and unleashed another move, Spirit Snake Binding. 15, like a winding spirit snake, twisted and turned, bypassing Chen Xin's 7-kill sword and striking directly at Chen Xin's vital points. Seeing this, Chen Xin's eyes narrowed slightly. He flickered his body, evading Zyro Tian's attack, and at the same time, swung his 7-kill sword back, striking towards Zyro Tian. The two exchanged blows, their sword moves continuous, and the battle entered a heated phase. Zyro Tian, relying on his improved evil exorcising swordplay, fought Sword Douluo Chen Xin to a standstill. On the field, the sword intent of Zyro Tian and Chen Xin collided, creating a dazzling spectacle. Everyone was astonished. Was this the battle between sword cultivators? Finally, both withdrew their swords simultaneously and exchanged smiles. This sparring match gave Zyro Tian a deeper understanding of his improved evil exorcising swordplay. With the ferocity, swiftness, and bizarre moves of the evil exorcising swordplay, combined with his third spirit ring, and the combo formed by the two 10,000-year spirit rings provided by Da Ming and Ming, he could definitely cut down his opponent before they even reacted. Zyro Tian, does this swordplay of yours have a name? I'd call you invincible among those of the same rank. No, even against a spirit emperor with your swordplay, sword intent, and spirit ability, it's not impossible to win. Chen Xin praised him unreservedly. He even had the idea of taking Zyro Tian as his disciple. But then he thought about how, at Zyro Tian's age, he was far inferior to him, not even having cultivated sword intent yet, and he immediately dismissed the idea. Zyro Tian's swordsmanship talent far surpassed his own. If he wanted to break through to a higher realm in the future, perhaps he could find time to discuss swordsmanship more with Zyro Tian. Zyro Tian smiled faintly. Evil exorcising swordplay. Good name. As soon as Chen Xin heard this name, he felt it was incredibly domineering. If he knew that this swordplay initially required self-castration to cultivate, what would he think? I must thank Sword Douluo for being willing to be my sparring partner. Sword Douluo's sword intent is much stronger than mine. Although Chen Xin didn't use his full strength just now, it was enough to get a glimpse. He truly lived up to his reputation as a level 96 Super Douluo. Moreover, if Zyro Tian remembered correctly, Chen Xin also possessed several self-created spirit abilities and had reached the realm of sword and man as one. He still needed to practice more. Zyro Tian, don't belittle yourself. I'm over 100 years old and a titled Douluo. If we were the same age, not only would my spirit power level be inferior to yours, but my swordsmanship cultivation would also be inferior. At your age, I hadn't even comprehended sword intent yet. Saying that, Chen Xin took out a token from his person and threw it to Zyro Tian, smiling. This is my exclusive token. With this token, you can enter the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School unimpeded from now on. If you don't get used to staying here later, you can always go to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School to find me. I'd like to discuss swordsmanship more with you. This might lead to considerable gains for both of us. Zyro Tian took the token. It had a 7-kill sword imprinted in the middle, looking very simple and felt good to the touch. Zyro Tian put it away and said, Then I thank Sword Douluo for your kindness. How about Sword Douluo stays for a few more days? Rongrong probably doesn't want you to leave so soon, and I also want to discuss swordsmanship more with you. Although he had the comprehension boost given by the system, allowing him to advance in swordsmanship on his own, Sword Douluo had, after all, walked this path for a long time. Discussing the Tao with him would be more straightforward and helpful to him. And Chen Xin had the same intention. Anyway, Gu Rong, that old fellow, was guarding the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, so nothing would happen. Meeting such a promising talent, he was very interested and wanted to uncover more about Zyro Tian. All right, also Zyro Tian, how about you call me Grandpa Sword just like Rongrong? If your talent wasn't so monstrous, I would have wanted to take you as my disciple. What a pity. As soon as these words were spoken, the scene instantly fell silent. Tang San's face couldn't help but twist. Why? Zyro Tian, quick, agree. This is the first time I've seen Grandpa Sword want to take a disciple. Ning Rongrong urged. Inside the spiritual space. Deming said to Zyro Tian, although your swordsmanship talent is strong, your brilliance is too dazzling right now, and your spirit ring configuration will eventually be exposed. Taking such a super Douluo as your master means that the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School stands behind you. It's a good deal. Ming also said in a muffled voice, yes, I think Big Brother makes sense. We can vaguely guess what you're thinking, but you still need time to grow. The 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School has the best reputation among all sects, and it will definitely be a very good partner in the future. Then Da Ming looked at Ah Yin, who was silent beside him, and also brought up a crucial point. Moreover, in the future, you will definitely have to face Tang Hao and even the Clear Sky sect. You will need manpower. Chapter 95, Tang San can't wait to show his hidden weapon, the sinister Zyro Tian. Regarding Da Ming and Ming's opinions, Zyro Tian just shook his head and said, Da Ming, Ming, because of the advancement of the Soul Spirit contract, you two are no longer limited by my strength. With your protection, do I still need to gain the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School's protection by becoming a disciple? Your strength is roughly equivalent to a human spirit master at the peak of 95th to 96th rank. Even if we were to encounter Tang Hao now, he wouldn't be my opponent, would he? Da Ming and Ming exchanged a smile. Zyro Tian was right, so the two beasts said in unison, that's good. After becoming a disciple, you would actually be subject to quite a few restrictions, which would be equivalent to indirectly joining the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. This would conflict with our subsequent plans, so it's better not to. Zyro Tian might very well establish his own force later. He could cooperate with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and discuss swordsmanship with Chen Xin, but becoming a disciple would be unnecessary. It could even be said that with the Xunyuan Sword Sutra, his understanding of swordsmanship surpassed even Chen Xin's. If we were to discuss the Tao, Chen Xin might even advance in rank because of it. Shouldn't he be the one to become my disciple instead? After realizing this, Zyro Tian also showed a difficult expression and tactfully refused. I apologize, Grandpa Sword. If I were to become your disciple in the eyes of outsiders, it would mean joining the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. You know, I prefer to be free and unconstrained. Although Chen Xin was a little disappointed by Zyro Tian's answer, he could only smile and say, since that's the case, then let's address each other as friends. Between us, we only discuss swordsmanship, nothing else. How can that be? I'll still call you Grandpa Sword. Zyro Tian hastily said, if he were to address Chen Xin as a friend, wouldn't that mess up the seniority? Zyro Tian's refusal to become Chen Xin's disciple surprised everyone present. If Zyro Tian had become Chen Xin's disciple, he would have a 96th rank titled Douluo as a backer. Moreover, Sword Douluo wasn't alone. If anything unexpected happened to Zyro Tian, out of respect for Chen Xin, Ning Fengzhai and Bone Douluo Gurong of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School would certainly not stand by and do nothing. But Zyro Tian refused. In their eyes, it was like a colossal fortune being thrown at you, but you discarded it like trash. However, Zyro Tian's refusal to become a disciple also made Tang San and Dai Mubai heave a sigh of relief. They couldn't bear to see Zyro Tian doing too much better than them. Tang San knew that he couldn't remain a transparent person anymore. Although Zyro Tian refused to become Chen Xin's disciple, Chen Xin was willing to address Zyro Tian as a friend, which made him a little restless. He had originally intended to connect with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School through Ning Rongrong, but unfortunately, his relationship with Ning Rongrong wasn't that good, at least much worse than Zyro Tian's. Therefore, he had to seize this opportunity to promote his Tang sect hidden weapons. Senior Sword Douluo, I have a type of weapon called hidden weapons here. I wonder if you'd be interested in learning about them. Tang San calmly walked out and took out the silent sleeve dart and powder shooting shadow from his spirit tool. Hidden weapons? Chen Xin was slightly puzzled. Zyro Tian's eyes narrowed. This Tang San really couldn't hold back his impatience. Was he seeing that his relationship with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School was good, so he was eager to make his move? Tang San said, Senior Sword Douluo, as far as I know, the direct spirit of your 7 treasure glazed tile school is the 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, which lacks self-preservation abilities. However, my hidden weapons can change this situation for you. Oh, that's quite a boast. You just said that hidden weapons are a type of weapon, right? Then, as the Grandmaster's disciple, have you learned that blacksmiths have a very low status in this world? Since we are spirit masters, we naturally prioritize improving ourselves. Chen Xin frowned and said, he wasn't looking down on blacksmiths. It was just that most weapons in this world were basically ordinary artifacts, which had no effect whatsoever on battles between spirit masters. He had heard that Lu Gao, the president of the Blacksmiths Association in Jengxin City, might have precious defensive gear capable of resisting high-rank spirit masters, but it was obvious that such items could not be mass-produced, which is why they were precious. Meanwhile, Zyro Tian said, Grandpa Sword, I think you can take a look. It might bring you a surprise. Tang San glanced at Zyro Tian with some surprise. Zyro Tian was actually speaking up for him. Did he have some other motive? Zyro Tian just smiled and said nothing. Would he kindly speak up for Tang San? Overthinking it. He was merely using Tang San to let the 7 treasure glazed tile school understand that the hidden weapons in Tang San's hand were indeed good and could serve as a means of self-preservation. But there was no need to hold them in especially high regard. After all, the godly huge crossbow was only effective against spirit ancestors and below. As for more advanced hidden weapons, not only could Tang San not produce them, even if he could, he wouldn't sell them. And don't forget, he also possessed all the manufacturing blueprints for Tang's sect hidden weapons. Hey. Zyro Wu and Ning Rongrong also smelled a conspiracy. Did Zyro Tian have some dark thoughts brewing again? Seeing that Zyro Tian had said so, Chen Xin also patiently said, then show them to me. His tone was very calm, without the excitement he had shown when sparring with Zyro Tian just now. After a series of tests, Chen Xin was slightly surprised by the hidden weapons Tang San had created, but this level was not enough to move him. Tang San, these trinkets you've made are indeed good, but your hidden weapons can at most cause damage to those below Spirit Elder. Their power is a bit weak. Tang San's heart tightened upon hearing this. Senior Sword Douluo, you may not know, but I also have a hidden weapon called the Godly Huge Crossbow. It's just that time is too short, and I haven't made it yet. This hidden weapon can cause significant damage to Spirit Ancestor powerhouses. Oh, Spirit Ancestor powerhouses. Alright then, I'll give you a few more days. If I'm satisfied, our sect can purchase a batch of hidden weapons from you. Hidden weapons capable of harming Spirit Ancestors had already moved Chen Xin somewhat. If they could be mass-produced, they could be equipped to everyone in the sect, which would significantly enhance overall strength. Tang San's heart swelled with joy upon hearing this, but he didn't show it on his face. Instead, he clenched his fist at Chen Xin and said, Senior Sword Douluo, then I'll take my leave first. He had to hurry and find some blacksmiths in Soto City to make the components for the Godly Huge Crossbow. He was very confident in the Godly Huge Crossbow. This was the first step in revitalizing the Tang sect in this other world. Meanwhile, Yu Xiaogang watched all of this from the side, feeling greatly relieved. Little San had finally connected with the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Good. Inside Zyro Tian's room. Zyro Tian, you're quite familiar with Tang San. Tell me your thoughts on these hidden weapons. You've known Tang San for so long, so you should understand them better, right? Chen Xin asked. This matter concerned the sect, so he had to be cautious. Zyro Tian calmly said, Grandpa Sword, the hidden weapons Tang San showed you just now included the silent sleeve dart, stomping crossbow, shoe blade, powder shooting shadow, and others. In my opinion, the more practical hidden weapons are the silent sleeve dart, powder shooting shadow, and the future Godly Huge Crossbow. The other hidden weapons seem rather useless. Why? Zyro Tian continued, other hidden weapons require close combat. Generally speaking, a support system Spirit Master's reflexes, no matter how much they train, can never surpass other Spirit Masters. Once an enemy gets close, it means death. Moreover, the close combat hidden weapons Tang San demonstrated basically cannot even break the defense of a Spirit Grandmaster. Grandpa Sword, you need to consider a situation. The 7 treasure glazed tile school is one of the upper 3 sects. When you need to use hidden weapons, it will undoubtedly be a time of crisis, and the combat power sent by the enemy can basically exclude Spirit Grandmasters and even Spirit Elders. What Zyro Tian said was based on the hypothetical scenario of Spirit Hall attacking the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. The main force Spirit Hall would use to attack the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School would at least be Spirit Ancestors. Those below Spirit Ancestor were basically cannon fodder. This chapter has been revised. The protagonist will not become Sword Douluo's disciple. I truly didn't expect everyone to have such a poor impression of Chen Xin and the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. My apologies. Chapter 96, Discussing the Dao, Slowing the Sword in Tension. After Zyro Tian's explanation, Chen Xin suddenly understood and no longer had such a strong desire for Tang San's hidden weapons. He just said, "Then, in your opinion, should our sect acquire the hidden weapons made by Tang San?" Zyro Tian said without hesitation, "Buy, but buy selectively. If the godly huge crossbow can truly injure a spirit ancestor, then everyone must have one. As for the others, they are basically not very useful, so buy them as needed. The only thing to pay attention to here is the price." Zyro Tian, you don't need to worry about that. Our 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School is wealthy. Even if the hidden weapons are expensive, we can afford them. What I care about now is whether Tang San's hidden weapons are truly useful to our sect. Chen Xin waved his hand and said, "Zyro Tian, is this what it means to be rich? Even if you're rich, you can't spend money like this, can you?" "Grandpa Sword, you misunderstood me. My point is, you can buy a set and bring it back to the sect. Then, under the pretense of needing the sect master's approval, you can take the opportunity to find some high-level blacksmiths to examine the material of these hidden weapons and appraise them, to avoid Tang San overcharging. This isn't about not lacking money. Every penny must be spent wisely. After all, to be honest, hidden weapons are consumables. The subsequent crossbow arrows and maintenance of the hidden weapons will also require considerable financial resources." After Zyro Tian's earnest persuasion, Chen Xin also nodded, believing that Zyro Tian's considerations were reasonable. However, only Tang San knows how to make hidden weapons, right? Then how can he supply their entire sect? However, what happens next will have to wait until Tang San finishes making the godly huge crossbow. These days, he can stay here and discuss sword intent with Zyro Tian. Chen Xin said, "Zyro Tian, may I ask when you began to comprehend sword intent?" Zyro Tian said, "Soon after I awakened my spirit, I suppose. Before awakening my spirit, I was always particularly fond of swords. Since I can remember, I've spent every day with a sword." Chen Xin was silent. Chen Xin was shocked. Chen Xin felt ashamed. "Haha, Zyro Tian, I didn't expect your sword intent talent to be so astonishing. How about we discuss sword intent today? What do you think sword intent is?" Chen Xin asked with a hint of a test, wanting to see Zyro Tian's understanding of sword intent. Zyro Tian pondered for a moment before saying, "Sword intent refers to the realm displayed by a sword cultivator after reaching a certain level of comprehension and cultivation of the sword. Sword intent can be understood as the soul, temperament, and will of the sword. It is a deep fusion and resonance between the sword cultivator and the sword. And sword intent can be expressed through sword momentum, sword kai, sword heart, or even sword domain. For example, the evil exorcising swordplay I initially demonstrated did not carry sword intent. The sword momentum and swordplay displayed without sword intent were not just a little bit weaker compared to those with sword intent." Chen Xin sat quietly cross-legged opposite Zyro Tian, listening very attentively to Zyro Tian's discourse. Some of what he said resonated deeply even with him. However, while Zyro Tian's sword intent was powerful, in his opinion, it could be even stronger. "Zyro Tian, your sword intent is very strong, but it's missing one thing," Chen Xin said very seriously. "What?" Zyro Tian didn't react for a moment. "Attribute. For example, my sword intent is called 7 Kill Sword Intent. It carries a strong killing aura, which can easily intimidate opponents. Your sword intent, although sharp and giving a powerful feeling, lacks the necessary elemental power. If you could add a certain attribute to your sword intent, perhaps it could be even stronger." Boom! Zyro Tian felt enlightened after Chen Xin's words. He knew what to do. "Grandpa Sword, I understand." Zyro Tian nodded slightly to Chen Xin and eagerly went outside the door. Sword 15 appeared in his right hand. Zyro Tian closed his eyes, and sword intent slowly covered his entire body. As time passed, another kind of sword intent seemed to emerge. And Zyro Tian's action once again made Tang San and the others feel it. Grandpa Sword, what is Zyro Tian doing? Enning Rongrong couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. Chen Xin said with a serious expression, "Don't speak. Zyro Tian seems to have gained new insights while discussing sword intent with me just now. Zhu King, how about we practice?" Zyro Tian smiled faintly at Zhu King. Zhu King was slightly startled but still nodded expressionlessly. She had long wanted to spar with Zyro Tian. "I won't hold back." Hell possession. Instantly Zhu King's spirit possessed her, and she took a stance, running rapidly around Zyro Tian at an extremely fast speed, trying to find his weakness. Meanwhile, Zyro Tian held Sword 15, and his originally transparent sword intent gradually turned bluish-black. At this moment, Zhu King had already circled behind Zyro Tian, seizing the opportunity to activate her spirit ability. First spirit ability, Hell Rush Stab. Under the amplification of her first spirit ability, Zhu King's speed became incredibly fast, attacking Zyro Tian in a straight line, moving so quickly that her figure was impossible to catch. However, Zyro Tian simply dodged to the side with ease, using 15 to block Zhu King's sharp claws. Their eyes met. Looking into Zyro Tian's deep eyes, Zhu King's heart inexplicably skipped a beat, and she immediately flashed backward. Zyro Tian's lips curved slightly, too late. Slowness sword intent. At this moment, the sword intent on Zyro Tian's body instantly materialized, and a bluish-black sword kai slashed towards Zhu King. Zhu King's pupils slightly contracted. She adjusted her body and dodged to the side, but her right arm was still unfortunately cut by the sword kai. Ugh! Zhu King bit her lip in pain. Just as she was about to speed up again and launch a counterattack, she suddenly found that her speed had slowed down. What's going on? You lost, little girl. Chen Xin, suppressing the shock in his heart, said faintly to Zhu King, "Zyro Tian's sword kai contains a slowing effect. You have now lost the advantage an agility attack system Spirit Master should have." That was secondary. Zyro Tian clearly held back with that sword kai just now. Otherwise, with his current strength, no matter how fast Zhu King was, it would have been impossible for her to avoid that sword kai attack. Zhu King was also slightly startled. Her speed just now seemed to have decreased by 10%. Was this the new ability Zyro Tian had developed? I surrender. Forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Zhu King said faintly. Zyro Tian, I didn't expect that after just a casual remark from me, you immediately added an attribute to your sword intent. What are its specific effects? As soon as Chen Xin said this, everyone present focused their gaze on Zyro Tian. Ding, congratulations to the host for defeating Speed God Zhu King. Although Zhu King went easy on the host, this system is still extremely shocked. Chapter 97, Can Zyro Tian be taken out of Shrek Academy together? Reward obtained, Sword-type Spirit Tool Manufacturing Compendium. The age of the first 3 spirit rings has been raised to 10,000 years. Zyro Tian. It was clearly him who went easy on Zhu King, all right. This system is really so understanding. A compendium for manufacturing sword-type spirit tools. After receiving the information, various names, levels, and uses of sword-type spirit tools appeared in Zyro Tian's mind. Level 1 Sword Spirit Tool, Initial Blade. Level 2 Sword Spirit Tool, Lightning Longsword. Level 8 Sword Spirit Tool, Sword of Judgment. These swords are quite interesting, but the most crucial part is that he doesn't know how to make them. This reward seems unusable for now, so Zyro Tian prepared to let it gather dust in his ring. Then Zyro Tian looked at the crowd and said, inspired by Grandpa Sword just now, I comprehended a sword intent called Slowness Sword Intent. When a sword kai or sword move carrying this sword intent hits an opponent, it will make their movement slow down. The important thing is it can stack. Everyone. Zyro Tian, isn't the effect of your slowness sword intent equivalent to a support system ability? How did you manage that? Enning Rongrong said with some surprise. Chen Xin was also very curious about this. Normally, the imparting of attributes is not that simple. For example, his 7-kill sword intent was naturally attached after he had enough experience and killed enough people. But how did Zyro Tian's slowness attribute come about? As if seeing everyone's confusion, Zyro Tian calmly said, I should have mentioned to you that my fourth spirit ability can increase my attack speed, right? Doesn't the opposite of that mean slowness? I just extracted the opposite attribute from my own spirit power. Zyro Tian was talking nonsense with a straight face. Ming. He clearly borrowed the attribute of his slow domain, all right. To truly extract the opposite attribute energy from the fourth spirit ability would be too difficult. And Zyro Tian's explanation directly bluffed Chen Xin, who was once again shocked by Zyro Tian's sword Dao talent. He thought to himself that even if he couldn't recruit Zyro Tian into the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, he must become friends with him. If the sect ever encountered a crisis in the future, perhaps Zyro Tian could help. Zyro Tian was also very satisfied with his progress. Since he could add attributes to sword intent, he might intentionally look for spirit rings with ice or fire attributes when choosing them in the future. Currently, with Da Ming and Ming, the 2 great spirit souls, lending him their power, he already possessed 2 sword intents, slowness sword intent and gravity sword intent. The gravity sword intent could be developed further by himself later. It should be able to achieve something similar to gravity control, without needing to touch the opponent like slowness sword intent. At this moment, Flender also flew over with Yu Zyrogang. Originally, he didn't want to get involved, but when he thought about having such a titled Douluo in the academy, his heart felt a bit bitter. Who understands this feeling? Senior Sword Douluo, did something happen here? Flender tried to force a smile, though it looked very awkward. Chen Xin looked disgusted and said, Nothing, Zyro Tian's sword Dao Realm just had a small breakthrough. Flender, is the sword Dao Realm that easy to break through? Why does it feel like Zyro Tian's breakthroughs are as easy as eating and drinking? Yu Zyrogang also couldn't help but feel some doubt in his heart. Could Zyro Tian be the hidden genius? He now realized that besides the advantages of his spirit and background, his disciple Tang San was completely outmatched by Zyro Tian in everything else. Why not find an opportunity to take Zyro Tian as a disciple as well? Yu Zyrogang pondered this in his mind. At this moment, Chen Xin suddenly asked, Flender, what is your next training plan? Flender replied, First, we plan to let them rest for 3 days. After 3 days, we will take them to the Great Spirit Arena in Soto City for training. Chen Xin frowned and said, Zyro Tian is already this strong. According to your Shrek Academy's standards, he can already graduate, can't he? Flender continued to force a smile and said, Senior Sword Douluo, you may not know, but our Shrek Academy has 2 graduation standards. One is to reach level 40 spirit power before the age of 20, which Zyro Tian has indeed met, but there is also a second condition, which is to obtain a silver Douluo badge in the Great Spirit Arena. Flender, you wouldn't be trying to fool me, would you? Flender's cold sweat ran down his back, and he quickly said, If Senior Sword Douluo doesn't believe me, you can ask Dai Mubai and Ma Hongjun. They both know about it and have already gained points in the Great Spirit Arena. What about Oscar, that food system spirit master? How many points has he gotten? Flender's heart skipped a beat, secretly cursing Chen Xin for suddenly picking a fight. Yu Zyrogang calmly said, Senior Sword Douluo, even if Oscar is a food system spirit master, he still needs to obtain a silver Douluo badge in the Great Spirit Arena. He can team up with others. Before, those were just minor skirmishes. The formal training begins in 3 days. According to my estimation, with their strength, as long as they maintain a winning streak, they can easily obtain a silver Douluo badge in less than a month. He also understood some of the Great Spirit Arena's point rules. The more consecutive wins, the more points obtained. Oscar, seeing himself being underestimated by Chen Xin, also mustered his courage and said, Senior Sword Douluo, don't look down on my strength, but the sausages I make have excellent support effects. Chen Xin merely glanced at him indifferently and said, Oh, you're telling someone from the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School that your sausages have good support effects. Can your sausages compare to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda Spirit? Oscar. Putting. Enning Rongrong and Zyro, who also couldn't help but laugh. Oscar was being a bit overconfident. Dai Mubai pulled Oscar, thinking, why come out and embarrass yourself? Chen Xin also narrowed his eyes and glanced at Dai Mubai, Evil Eye's white tiger spirit, surname Dai, a member of the Star Luo Empire royal family. And that girl just now had the Hell Sivet spirit, from the Zhu family of Star Luo. Why would these two run to the Heaven Du Empire's territory? Suddenly, Chen Xin thought of the Star Luo Empire's imperial succession system and immediately withdrew his gaze. He knew what was going on. It's the weak. Dai Mubai sensitively felt the disdain in Chen Xin's eyes and gradually grew angry, but he still tried hard to control his rage. Don't be impulsive, don't be impulsive. Then I'll stay for a few more days. It'll be a good chance to see your spirit battles. Saying that, Chen Xin's 7-kill sword rose, and he flew into the distance. It's late today, Rongrong, you should rest early, and Zyro Tian, I'll come find you tomorrow. At this moment, Chen Xin already had a plan in mind. He wanted to take Rongrong away from this shabby Shrek Academy and see if he could also abduct Zyro Tian. Chapter 98, Soto City Great Fighting Spirit Arena. The next evening at the Great Spirit Arena of Soto City. Although they were supposed to rest for 3 days, seeing Zyro Tian and Sword Douluo discussing swordsmanship and diligently cultivating, Zyro Wu and the others couldn't sit still and wanted to come to the Great Spirit Arena of Soto City earlier. Yu Zyrogang and Flender naturally agreed that they could register here first. Competitions in Soto City are divided into 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and team-based 7-on-7. Within these, there are also gambling matches and death matches. Since we are here for experience, we will naturally choose gambling matches. Yu Zyrogang briefly explained the rules of the Great Spirit Arena to Zyro Tian and the others. After everyone had completed their registration, they went to a lounge. Yu Zyrogang then continued, the graduation requirement for Shrek Academy is to obtain a silver Douluo badge. Initially, all of you will have iron Douluo badges, then bronze Douluo badges after promotion, and finally silver Douluo badges. Zyro Wu secretly whispered from the side, Brother, did you expose your spirit power level when you registered? Zyro Tian shook his head and showed Zyro Wu his badge. The level printed on it was exactly 43, 10 levels lower than his original level. If he had revealed his original 53 levels, there would probably be no opponents in Soto City who could match him. Although fighting with a false level felt somewhat unfair, it was unavoidable. He genuinely wanted to keep a low profile, but it seemed he couldn't. Chen Xin also walked over. Zyro Tian, I've roughly looked around. With your strength, obtaining a silver Douluo badge in a short time is simply too easy. Although team competitions are limited to once a day, 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 don't have this restriction. Flender glanced at Chen Xin, feeling his chest still aching faintly, but he still spoke solemnly. For 2-on-2 team-ups, you can decide among yourselves later. Let's first talk about the team competition. Yu Zyrogang took over and said, the team competition requires 7 people, and we have 8 here. At the end, Yu Zyrogang's gaze fell on Zyro Tian as he said, Zyro Tian, your current spirit power level is too high. Among your 8, Fatty Zhuking and Rongrong are spirit grandmasters, while you are already a spirit ancestor. Not only would this greatly increase the difficulty of the team competition, but Soto City probably doesn't even have spirit ancestor level teams, so. Because Chen Xin was present, Yu Zyrogang's tone was very sincere. This truly was unavoidable. Soto City basically had no spirit ancestor level teams, unless they were transferred from other places, but even then, the number would definitely not be high. Brother, are you trying to exclude my brother, Grandmaster? If so, I won't participate either. Zyro Wu frowned and said, she didn't care about the ridiculous rules Yu Zyrogang was talking about. This was something the Great Spirit Arena needed to resolve. Why should they accommodate? Enning Rongrong also agreed. Grandmaster, if I remember correctly, the points for winning a team competition are the most among the 3 types. Isn't your decision a bit unfair to Zyro Tian? Yu Zyrogang had long anticipated this situation. Zyro Wu and the others, who had a good relationship with Zyro Tian, would definitely object, but he also had other ideas. In that case, let's ask the supervisor of the Great Spirit Arena of Soto City. Flender noticed Yu Zyrogang's eye signal and then walked out. Soon after, a middle-aged man wearing glasses and a black robe walked over, smiling at Zyro Tian and his group. May I ask if you have any questions? Yu Zyrogang then briefly explained their team's situation, and Supervisor Ao understood the situation. He glanced at Zyro Tian, not expecting that this young man had already reached the strength of a spirit ancestor. The astute Supervisor Ao felt that this not only required extreme talent, but also must have been guided by an expert behind the scenes. So he smiled and said, "Actually, for team competitions in the Great Spirit Arena, it's not just limited to 7 people. There is a substitute slot." "Oh, a substitute slot. How come I've never heard of it before?" Flender said somewhat surprisingly. "Could it be that this Supervisor Ao just added it on the spot?" Supervisor Ao nodded as if it were a matter of course. "It does exist, but if your team adds an extra substitute, it means the points gained from winning will need to be shared with the 8th person who didn't play. From the perspective of all teams, this is quite uneconomical, as generally, substitutes are not needed. This isn't the Soul Master competition, which has a fixed schedule." However, Supervisor Ao also said with some difficulty, "Currently, we only have Spirit Elder level teams in Soto City. I hope that if this young man is to participate, he can report to the Great Spirit Arena in advance so that we have more time to prepare." The reason Supervisor Ao's tone was so good was not only out of fear of Zyro Tian's background, but also because of Chen Xin, who was beside him. Based on his many years of intuition, the person in front of him was definitely a strong individual. He exuded an aura of authority without needing to be angry. Zyro Tian waved his hand and said, "Since that's the case, let's do it. Anyway, if I can get points for free without having to exert myself, what's there for me to be unhappy about? But..." Changing his tone, Zyro Tian's eyes were very serious. "If the team we face is entirely composed of Spirit Elders, then I will participate. Supervisor Ao, this should be fine, right?" As he spoke, Zyro Tian also subtly exuded an aura of a strong individual, leaving no room for him to refuse. Supervisor Ao froze for a moment, then reacted, "That is certainly no problem." After Supervisor Ao left, Yu Zyrogang finally breathed a sigh of relief. "All right, this is actually better now. There are indeed teams in Soto City that are entirely composed of Spirit Elders. We can then arrange tactics accordingly. Now you all can form your own 2-on-2 teams." Zyro Tian. With him there, did they still need tactics? Wasn't it just a matter of one sword strike? If one sword strike wasn't enough, then another. Hey. Brother, let's team up for 2-on-2. Before anyone else could speak, Zyro Wu had already excitedly pulled Zyro Tian's hand and said. Enning Rongrong, seeing this, couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. She also wanted to team up with Zyro Tian. Although there was a significant gap between her spirit power level and Zyro Tian's, the auxiliary effect of her 7 treasure glazed tile spirit wouldn't decrease because of it. So she decided. Zhuking, let's team up. She decided that she would still team up with Zhu Zhuking. After all, everyone saw the relationship between Zyro Wu and Zyro Tian certainly wouldn't refuse to team up, so there was no need for her to embarrass herself. Chapter 99, Selfishness Conflict. As for Ning Rongrong's request, Zhu Zhuking naturally had no objections. She also felt that her combination with Ning Rongrong was more suitable. Otherwise, wouldn't she have to team up with Ma Hongjun or Oscar? She absolutely didn't want to. Ma Hongjun looked at the 3 girls in the team who had already found their partners, and his heart was filled with regret. But when he thought that his lifeblood was gone, his mood became even more dejected. Flender patted Ma Hongjun's back comfortingly and said, Fatty, you don't need to be too sad. Although that part of you is gone, you've also become stronger. Ma Hongjun felt like crying, but had no tears. He naturally knew what Flender meant. His Zikond brother was gone, which meant he no longer had to suffer from the evil fire's harm. After all, if that part wasn't there, the evil fire couldn't rise even if it wanted to. Woo tilde. In fact, that night, he even leveled up because of it, and was now Spirit Elder level 28. Tang San looked at Zyro Wu and Zyro Tian, who were about to team up, frowned, and said with some reluctance, Zyro Wu, I think it's better if you team up with me. You know Zyro Tian is facing Spirit Ancestor level powerhouses. And you are currently only level 34. If he teams up with Boss Dai, the probability of winning will be greater. Our levels are similar, which is more suitable. Tang San's words were flawless, making others truly believe he was genuinely thinking for the entire team. In reality, it was just to satisfy his own selfish desires. Yu Zyrogang, knowing Tang San's peculiar feelings for Zyro Wu, also looked at Zyro Tian and said, Zyro Tian, Little Sun is right. You'll most likely be facing 2-on-2 battles against high-level spirit ancestors. It's best if you team up with Mubai or have Rongrong assist you. As Yu Zyrogang spoke, he also wanted to drag Ning Rongrong into it. He knew that Ning Rongrong definitely intended to team up with Zyro Tian. Who would have thought that Ning Rongrong would say, "Grandmaster, Zyro Tian's strength is so great that even facing two high-level spirit ancestors by himself isn't a problem. You wouldn't be trying to set him and Zyro Wu up just because Tang San is your disciple, would you? Just now you said free teaming, but now." During her time with Zyro Tian, Ning Rongrong had long learned to see through the essence of certain phenomena. The difference in her and Zyro Tian's levels was so vast that even as a support, she probably wouldn't last 2 or 3 minutes before her spirit power was exhausted, and as a theoretical grandmaster, he should know this best. Thinking this way, Yu Zyrogang was just trying to drag her into it, and incidentally, to cover up his true intentions. Now that her grandfather was present, she didn't need to hold back. She had been annoyed with Yu Zyrogang for a long time. Yu Zyrogang felt a lump in his throat. He looked at Chen Xin, who was frowning nearby, and forced a smile. "How could that be, Rongrong? I'm just thinking for your sakes and offering a suggestion. The final decision is still up to you." "HMPH, Grandmaster, I'm teaming up with my brother and no one else can change that. And honestly, Dai Mubai might not even be as strong as me." Zyro Wu was also getting a bit angry, and her tone became arrogant. No, although she hadn't officially competed with Dai Mubai, she had this confidence. "What, are we two going to fight first?" Zyro Wu's words were practically trampling his dignity as a man. "Hess, in that case, do you dare to sign up for a one-on-one later? We can't just register our names and leave after coming all the way to this spirit arena today, can we?" Zyro Wu suggested. Flender said from the side, Hey, isn't it just forming a team? What are you doing? However, this is also good. Later, you can sign up and experience the atmosphere of the spirit arena." Soon, Zyro Tian's 8 people also formed their respective teams. Zyro Tian and Zyro Wu. Ning Rongrong and Shu Shuking. Tang San and Ma Hongjun. Dai Mubai and Oscar. After confirming, the 8 submitted their applications. At the same time, except for Ning Rongrong and Oscar, everyone else also signed up for one-on-one, two-on-two and team battles. Zyrogang, can they sustain their spirit power by participating in so many types of battles at once? Flender said with some uncertainty. Yu Zyrogang shook his head, indicating there was no problem at all. It's just, there was one thing he was very worried about. It was not difficult to see that the 8 Shrek members were divided into 2 camps, those led by Tang San, including Dai Mubai Ma Hongjun and Oscar, and those led by Zyro Tian, including Zyro Wu Ning Rongrong and Shu Shuking. The gunpowder smell just now was truly thick. He only hoped that through today's team battles, the few of them could better cooperate with each other. Soon after they signed up, the host's shout came from the arena. Tonight's first match, Soft Bones Demon Rabbit vs Evil Eyes White Tiger. They didn't use their real names, but rather aliases. Originally, Yu Zyrogang wanted them to buy masks to wear, but Zyro Tian directly refused. Wearing masks might be useful for others, but generally not for them. The spirits were all quite distinctive: Dai Mubai's Evil Eyes White Tiger, Zhu Zhuking's Hell Civet, Ning Rongrong's 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda. These were not things that could be hidden by wearing a mask. As for Oscar and Ma Hongjun's spirits, they had lived in Shrek and Soto City for so many years. Anyone with a bit of interest would eventually know they were from Shrek Academy. The most important point was their team name was directly the Shrek team, as if they were afraid others wouldn't know they came from Shrek Academy, outside the city. After Zyro Tian's persuasion, naturally no one was willing to wear masks. Hearing the host's shout from the arena, Zyro Tian and the others all looked at Zyro Wu and Dai Mubai in unison. What a coincidence. Zyro Wu, you go for it. Zyro Tian whispered to Zyro Wu. Originally, he wanted Zyro Wu to be as merciful as possible, but then he remembered that Zyro Wu and Dai Mubai had a 4-level spirit power gap no matter what. If she wasn't careful, there was a risk of being counterattacked by Dai Mubai. It was better to go all out. If something really happened, they could deal with it then. Hey. Zyro Wu nodded and walked towards the arena with Dai Mubai from opposite sides. The host looked at these 2 young people and said with some surprise, I didn't expect tonight's first match to be between 2 young people. Their talent and strength are not weak. Without further ado, let's introduce their basic information to the audience now. Soft Bones Demon Rabbit, Spirit as above, Spirit Power Level 34, Attack System Spirit Elder. Evil Eyes White Tiger, Spirit as above, Spirit Power Level 38, Attack System Spirit Elder. Oh, where did this delicate little girl come from? You should hurry and get off the stage. The opponent's spirit is a tiger, and he's stronger than you. Don't get eaten later. A wave of mockery towards Zyro Wu immediately came from the stands.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to AI Otaku Studio, and don't forget to check out Infinite Novel Audio for more amazing content. See you in the next adventure.